Hi, everyone. Welcome to Diceborn Reveals in Stained Glass. This is our Talkback show where we talk about Diceborn Secrets in Stained Glass, which is now wrapped up. Ben and Ian couldn't be here today, but they will be on a full spoiler stream coming up sometime in the future. Time is a weird soup.
Oh my God.
So who knows?
Yep.
When and where and how
soon
we are being. Soon. It's going to be pretty casual, but we will have spoilers for the whole Secrets in Stained Glass series. So please watch all 5 episodes before watching this. And there'll also probably be some spoilers for the Mistborn books because we're going to discuss connections to them. Probably no spoilers for anything else, though. So
probably not.
As long as you've got Mistborn covered, you're probably good. Yeah, I guess. Is there anything else you want to say to start? Oh, introductions.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
How do we do this?
This is yeah.
We're laid back
going
today,
crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
We're laid back. We're casual.
Yeah.
I should also say in terms of timeline, the first episode has just come out for viewers. We've of course have recorded all the episodes. We're in production of them. We've rewatched the first couple episodes, most of us, because they're in the later stages of production. The last 2 episodes, Alyx is probably the only one who's watched them pretty recently.
She's editing them.
She hasn't given us the juicy recordings yet.
It's early July.
We're very excited.
You guys have watched some of the raw recordings of those, I think,
yes,
but maybe not all the way through.
I never did.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever did for 4 and 5.
Interacted with them since recording.
No, I didn't download them, so I don't have them on my computer.
Which
I watched the raw recordings for 1 to 3, most of them in between recording sessions to help me prep for session 4 and 5.
I think I rewatched the end of 4, but the most of the things I rewatched for 3, like a lot. So
it's valid.
I wonder
and just
why.
To get, like timeline stuff. We recorded 4 and 5 in March, and now it is July, so it has been several months. Since recording.
I still remember my feelings.
I'm sure it'll come up.
I think we all do.
Anyway, we haven't introduced ourselves yet.
No, not at all.
I'm Matt. I'm the narrator of Diceborn Secrets in Stained Glass, and joining me is Eric.
Hi. Oh, this is not the order that I expected we'd do from Secrets in Stained Glass because the 6 I'm last, which is a weird experience for me on Sharkcast. But hi, I'm Chaos. I play Jenna Techiel. She's very nice.
I was just going in screen order, but now I'm going to go reverse. Now I'm going to go reverse SiSG order because that's
okay.
Better. So
you got to commit. You got to commit to that. Yeah.
Is Dear.
Hi, I am Alyx or Feather. I guess now I'm Dier. I've been assigned. I do play Dier, but
this is the chaotic energy you wanted after episode 5, right?
This is what we're shooting for.
Yeah. Also, for those who don't know, I am your post-production guru, the editor for our show as well. So we may talk some about that as well.
Claps for Alyx real quick. No, you need to accept compliments.
You need it. You deserve it.
We haven't seen, because episode 3 isn't out. Right. But the amount of time you spent on that was insane, and it turned out awesome. And I know 4 and 5 are going to be awesome as well. But that is really like the climactic action moment of the show, right? So so big claps to that. The soundtracking. You spent 8 hours on that Headphones Off Sheen for the soundtracking it?
Not just soundtracking. There was other editing that was done, but it was about 8 hours across 2 days on the 40 minutes of footage that was the headphones.
And one of those days was a work day for you, wasn't it?
Oh,
both one of those days.
This is what
both
I did
of them were work
hours
days.
after work.
Yeah. So let's clap for Alyx and appreciate all the work she's done, but not enable the standard of perfectionism that causes her not to sleep.
To be fair, when Alyx and I wrote our Diargena story, I think I worked I got off work and then I worked on that for the entire rest of the day. That was an entire week. That was all I did. I worked, hung out with Jess a bit, watching some Secrets in Stained Glass, and then writing Secrets in Stained Glass. That was the whole week. So I get it, Alyx. I get it.
Yep.
And lastly, joining me is Verónica.
Hello. Well, you'll know me as Cheyenne Sedai on the Discord and forums, and I play Eliane Venture. I am very glad that during all this Secrets in Stained Glass craziness, I mean, not the recordings, but just like release, production, all this. I've been on vacation since the end of May, so I don't have to worry about going crazy because I can just like space it out a little bit more than everyone else.
Oh, there's always stuff you can do when you're off work. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Never a problem.
We're all pretty crazy, and it's crazy that this episode is going to air in a time when we're able to talk about like anything on the Discord and stuff. That's weird. And it's going to feel good. Even some of the stuff you guys were saying in your intros, I got like a momentary like, what's a spoiler? And then I'm like, wait, no.
Spoilers.
I know.
Like this constant state of like, nope, keep the words in.
Yeah,
keep
be
the words
careful.
in.
Yeah.
So hard.
I've been doing that since January because I've been like planning stuff that I couldn't say to these guys
earlier than January. Yeah.
The chat started in October, so
yeah. Flashing forward to a time when I can literally talk about anything just seems like it's insane to me. Yeah.
Yep. There are no more secrets in the stained glass.
You all need to understand that after every single episode that we recorded, every single recording session, like Ben is EU, so he, went to bed after recording because
sometimes
he
stuck around a couple times too.
But then like I think like we would like eat. But like we would be on a call for like 6 more hours until like midnight Pacific time. And I'm the only one in Pacific time. Everyone else is further. So that's what we did. So in retrospect, we maybe could have recorded some like episode by episode ones of these, but we didn't know. We didn't know.
Yeah, I think at the time we also weren't sure. I think we were eventually we decided let's just go ahead with whoever is available and wants to do it. I think at the time we were wanting everyone. Yeah. And I know like I, for example, was like hopping in and out of those calls in the evening.
That's true. Yeah.
And there was some like typing only. But it would have been fun to catch some of the energy of those calls for sure, because there was some.
I think after episode 1, I had that idea. And then like our second recording was episode 2 and 3, which we had the split, which we'll talk about.
Which was 6 hours long.
Which was 6 hours long. It would have been 4 hours, 40 minutes if we combined episode 2 and 3, right? Yeah, basically.
Yeah, like 4 hours, 40 minutes. I was like, that's just a little too long.
That's too long. Mm-hmm. But then Matt was like, "Oh, you can't talk about it." Like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's good we're not doing an episode talk back." Because what's there to talk about if we couldn't talk about the thing?
That's true. That's true.
Trying to do a talk back after episode 3 with the rest of the cast,
impossible.
Where Eric and I are just like dying inside.
Yeah, Alyx and I did a talk back for several days, really, because we were dying.
There were many voice calls. I think it would have been a talk back of just the other 3 with you guys silently breaking down in the back. And Alyx pacing. That's the thing. There was multiple voice calls I had with Alyx. I think at one point I wasn't like on video. I was just like, Alyx, stop pacing.
You just knew. You could tell that I had like gotten up and started pacing because I was trying to process the emotions.
I love pacing. That's exactly what I do as well.
It's useful. Yeah,
it's so useful.
I do it a lot too. Yeah. during all of those, like, after sessions, like, I finished recording and whatever. Like, my parents genuinely are like, why are you recording so long? But after Sequences, they were out of their minds. They're like, please stop, please disconnect. Just please talk with people. And I'm like, I'm talking with people, but I need to process, and you don't want me screaming the entire time at things that you don't understand that you'll be very confused by. Let me process. They were desperate. They're like, please think about something. I'm like, I can't.
I had a moment, I think it was after episode 3's recording, where like I go downstairs, Jess asked me how it went, and like it takes, like, I tried to explain the insanity that occurred and just like the tangled web, and she's like, that's a lot of words for sure. I'm like, I know. She got very confused, like, who's Mavis? So it's tricky, it's challenging. And like, she's telling me about her day, and I'm just like, I need to focus so hard to listen to what my wife is saying, because my brain is somewhere totally different. My brain's like, think about this other thing. You want to think about that, right? Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah. Guys, we made a good show, I think.
I think we made a good show,
and I'm really proud of it. And I'm glad. I know as we're recording this, only episode 1 is out, but like already seeing how much people are enjoying just the first episode is like,
people weren't completely confused after the first episode, which was my worry. So I think mission accomplished, because there's a lot going on.
No, like, but the fact that there were a couple of people saying they were more excited for SiSG episode 2 than for Secret Project 3 was baffling to me, and I loved it.
Lady of Scars is a special person, though. Shout out to Lady of Scars. Your theories are already fantastic, but she did donate $25 for a 7-hour DR stream. Did you see that, Alyx?
Listen, it'll have. We've talked about, maybe we should set expectations for this video. Like, we talked about, we're probably not going to really try to get too deep into all of the like backstory details of the character, just because there's too much. There's too much to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe we will talk about some of that on stream if people have questions.
Yeah,
but also, honestly, I will get in a Discord call for 7 hours, and anybody who wants to hear me talk about DR for 7 hours,
that can be content.
Do that for you.
It can be it can be a YouTube stream. We can monetize it.
We can do that too.
We can monetize it, Alyx. It's important. Anyway, Matt, you're an evil genius, and we hate you. Yeah. And I believe I specifically said this at my wedding when you were there, which was a week after we recorded episode 5.
After we wrapped.
And like, Jess and I are going around for table touches, and I'm like, you're such a jerk, Matt. Like, God, how's this so good? Horrible.
Yeah. Shout out to Jess for giving us you like a week before your wedding.
That is true. People started. I think, arrived later that day from Australia.
So we appreciate it would have been painful not having wrapped filming.
Yes. Devastating.
Yeah.
I need to just squee about how you did all the things you did. Especially Mare. What?
You're gone.
It's a Tin-Eye, of course. Of course.
Yeah. I knew she was a Tin-Eye all along. I knew she was a Tin-Eye, and I never put it together. But like, look, even before Matt got me the extra secrets, because I came on later, and we'll talk about that. But I knew from the very beginning, from session session 0, where we had all the secrets, I knew since then she was a Tin-Eye, and I didn't put it together.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I know we've probably explained this on Discord somewhat, but everyone, all the players were given a list of like 3 to 8, I think was the largest collection of secrets. Some of them had overlap, some of them didn't. And then lots of them came out in the episodes. Not quite all of them. I think some of them maybe stayed hidden.
I have one that I want to talk about. Yeah.
But Eliane, Verónica had the secret that Addison was a Tin-Eye. And I think you were the only one who knew that.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
So I guess to just kind of jump into stuff, maybe we should start like way back at the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know that you've actually talked to us about this, Matt, but like, how'd you come up with the idea? Like, where did you decide you wanted to run a mystery game?
We'll bully you about the reveals later.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. So I think I've always liked the idea of running a Mistborn game, and Mistborn Era 1, I have to do this. Everyone knows what I'm going to talk about. Mistborn the Inquisition is a forum text-based role-playing experience that is how Eric and I really became friends.
Yeah. This was like 2009, right?
Yeah,
I think.
2009 to 2011 was kind of the heyday. And then it had like a 10-year decline.
Yeah, because I never finished the ball. It's kind of my fault.
Yeah. The Kaswana ball is finished in our hearts. So I've always loved the Final Empire setting. And one of my things about the books is, I think rightly so, they're set from the perspective of the thieving crew. But because of that, we're only really getting that noble intrigue from Vince's perspective, which is an outside perspective. And I do really love the noble intrigue, politics side of things. So I knew
we did so much, Matt, in that forum RP. We did a lot of There's so much, guys. It's hard to really properly explain. We know all the history of all the great houses, and the great houses are different. It was set 100 years ago. That was a lot.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to do Noble Final Empire Court. In Mistborn the Inquisition, I was in charge of House Ilariel, and I played a lot of Ilariels, which is part of where my love, the Ilariel family, may they live forever, comes from. And I will get every Ilariel wob that I can possibly get. That's my mission. So I knew, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do a noble family, I'm going to do the Ilariel.
It's going to be the Ilariel.
I have to. And then I was getting inspired. I had finished Downton Abbey, but I really, really liked Downton Abbey. I'd watched Bridgerton. I'd watched A Court of Fey and Flowers, I think came out in the prep time.
Yeah, that was summer last year, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. So this kind of idea of a bunch of young nobles and kind of a bit of a romance tryst vibe. As part of the setting, I kind of glommed onto this kind of courtly life. And then the mystery, I just was thinking about, I don't even know where this came from, but just the idea of kind of a small, not setting it in Luthadel in this big sweeping multi-keep thing, but having an enclosed setting, kind of like the game of Clue, and have it kind of more closed. And I originally conceived it as a two-parter, so obviously I was a new game runner. I did not know how to pace things exactly, but the original concept was episode 1 sets up the clues and the murder, which was going to be the murder of Mavis, and then episode 2 is the fallout and the solving of that mystery. But then I also knew, okay, I want to introduce this as a mystery to the players so they're prepared. So I need another mystery to kind of smokescreen the mystery of Who Wants Mavis Dead that's somewhat connected, so they can start digging into that and it's not a huge waste of time. So then my biggest influence for the fire probably is the Tragedy of Summerhall from the A Song of Ice and Fire books, which is not in the books. It's a background history thing that's alluded to occasionally, where the Targaryens had a summer castle that burned down and a bunch of members of the family died. And I've always thought that's kind of a cool idea. So
yeah.
What can I ask? What was the first piece of the mystery, like plot point that you got? Like, was it like Mavis is gonna like go in the lake somehow? Was it like Mavis and Chess relationship? Like, what was the seed that like the rest of the web sort of grew off of? Do you even remember at this
Where
point?
was Patrine in the start?
Yeah.
I knew bit of the mystery.
I knew Mavis. Like, Mavis was conceived as a potential murder victim, like that character from her origins. So she was definitely pretty early on. As soon as I knew I was setting on in a lake, I'm like, oh, I want to throw Mavis in the lake. I really love the movie. This is all my like pop culture references. There's the movie, the WB movie Anastasia, like the animated Anastasia.
Oh, yeah.
There's a fight on the ice between Anastasia and Rasputin, and then he breaks through and goes down, and she escapes. And then he references that later. He's like, do you remember me? A tragic fight on the ice. And yeah, again, an image that has kind of stuck with me.
Sure.
So the fight on the ice came early. Originally, I was trying to figure out a way for Mavis to be wearing the mantle when she goes out there. And just the tragedy of her like wearing this unbelievably heavy cape and like
falling in the lake.
But I found a different way for the mantle to be important. So I was like,
you did.
She doesn't need to be wearing it. I'm trying to think. So yeah, that was a pretty early idea. That like the fire was pretty early. Chess came later. Like, Chess was more of a, how do I connect all these threads?
And you needed like our characters to like start that. Yeah.
I think Chess was probably post
Session Zero.
Yeah. Well, because I came up with Chess in tandem with Julian, and Julian was definitely post Session Zero.
That's fascinating. Like, he was so central to her motivation, but he was a later part of the process.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that was very early was that the reason Mavis was getting killed was because she had uncovered the secret about Tavidian, and that she was taunting Patrine with Vin's mom.
Nice.
That was always, I was like, Mavis has happened upon, like, she knows this secret that we know does not come out until way later, like 10 years later, right? And that's why, like, when I set the timeline, I did a lot of work, because I kind of knew also early on I wanted to bring Mare into it. Because I love Mare. Lady of Scars, I share your love for Mare, and I hope you appreciated what I gotta say, her.
Shout out, Lady of Scars got it immediately upon seeing Mare's Addison's description. None of us got it. Playing the whole thing.
And I will say,
trying to be very coy, but wow, I was impressed.
Yeah, the description that Lady of Scars used to get it, though, is a patron exclusive. So if you don't know what we're talking about there and want to see it, consider supporting us on Patreon.
There's a 20-page background document where it goes into more detail on Addison, and there was like a quote in Lady of Scars, which makes sense that she would be a Mare fangirl like that. That username checks out. So she's like, I instantly recognize this. Yeah.
And then we were all like in the same server. We were like, "Oh my god,
we can't say anything. We can't say anything. Don't confirm nothing." Yeah.
So anyway, so with timeline, originally I was thinking I would do a pre-Kelsier Mare, like a single Mare. But then I knew I wanted this like mystery, so I had to be I was like, it needs to be post Vin's sister being born, because we are potentially opening up. Because it just says in the books that the mom was assassinated sometime after. Like, Tavidian says she wasn't assassinated right after we had a relationship. It was, I took care of it sometime later.
Yeah.
So I knew, I didn't know what was going to happen. Just in case she got killed, it had to be post Vin's sister being born, and probably after Reen. And then also probably after Reen has taken Vin away, so she's on her own, so we don't have Vin and Reen there again. I wanted to.
God. Yeah.
So then I'm looking at, okay, Kelsier and Mare have been married for 15 years, so they're already married. So then why is Mare there? And then I came up with this, Mare's there doing a heist, and she is, because Kelsier says she is like one of the best when it comes to impersonating a noblewoman.
Yeah, no crap. Crap.
So that was really fun. But yeah, no, I think probably the Mavis knows Tavidian's secret was, if I had to pick an earliest seed, that might be it.
So you were thrilled when I'm like, I want to be the Techiel heir. Like you're thrilled that I chose that. It's like, good.
Well, and if you look back in our chats, Eric, I did a lot of you don't have to, but like you could be Tavidian's sister. And I was trying really hard. I
didn't relook at this actually. Like I probably should, but
Matt's an evil genius, guys.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to give away. I wanted it to be like, this is just a cool Easter egg. I didn't want to give away that Tavidian was in any way going to be significant to the players. So like if you had said, no, I don't like that, I would have been like, okay, Tavidian was an only child and Jen is from like a different branch of the family that took over when he like I would have moved the family tree around to fit your characters. But I was really happy when you were like, yeah, no, that'd be cool. I could be Vin Zant. Yeah, that's cool.
That's crazy. That's still crazy to me, by the way. And crazy to think that's like, okay, we can't have Vin there. And I'm just like, oh yeah, Jenna, that would be bad. That would be very bad, actually. But Matt, you know me. I was very flexible in my character creation. I'm like, I had a few vibes, which were like secret pewter arm, and then there was the Jenna DR stuff that Alyx and I came later. But I knew I always wanted a secret Allomancer because I thought that would be very fun to reveal to both the audience and the other players. So we designed it where I'm like, Matt, I don't want to reveal I have Allomancy to all the crew. Although three of the six of us knew. Like I think only two people didn't know. Only Verónica and Ian didn't know. But that's fine.
Oh, Ben didn't know. Did he?
Ben knew.
Did Ben know?
Knew. Ben knew.
Yeah. Oh, right, because Lucius knows this about Jenna as her friend, right?
Yeah,
right.
They were like childhood friends.
Lucius knew.
And he's a seeker, like he would have picked up on it at some point.
But other than that, I was like, maybe dead fiance. Like, I don't know who this is. You can make him whoever. Like, that's fine. I don't care. We'll figure it out. Whatever works for the story. Like, it's supposed to be a 2-shot. You have to work with the DM to, get so things are tight, right?
Yeah. No, and I was pretty happy with everyone's characters. Like I did try to do some like sneaky nudging here and there, where I thought it would enhance. And that's also intentionally, I had kind of vibes, but I didn't work out like the minutia, like I said, like the chess. A lot of the like how and why came after session 0 because I wanted to make sure I was integrating all of your characters and giving the plot stakes for all of you. This is a good segue. And Eric, you kind of started talking about this. Sure. Do you guys want to say why your characters?
Yeah.
How did those come
about? In an hour.
Oh,
no, sorry.
So DR is Matt's fault. It's 100% his fault. I'm totally blameless. Basically, so for people who don't know, I have mentioned this a few places, but DR and Eliane actually were characters of mine from a previous. It was a modern day Mistborn RP with like cell phones and the internet and stuff. But they were like a brother and sister pair. Eliane was my main character in that game, and then I like brought in this nasty brother to be like an antagonist for her, basically, and like blackmail her and do all this stuff.
Oh my god!
And when Matt mentioned he had this game, I was like, maybe I could adapt one of they were Kaswanas in that game. I was like, maybe I could adapt Kaswana siblings.
Kaswana, by the way, was my fake house in the Mistborn Inquisition, just for people who don't know. Because no one knows this.
And now I've restolen for things that are never going to see the light of day.
Yeah. Anyway.
And I remember like talking to Matt about like, okay, I kind of have these two sibling ideas. I don't know which one of them would be a better fit for the game. I was kind of leaning toward Eliane because she was, in her original iteration, she was this sort of like coy informant type. And I was like, she's nice. She would play well with a group. You know, we only have 2 episodes. I need somebody who's not going to make a huge mess, right? And I was like, on the other hand, I have this sort of like trashy, nasty boy who is a lot of fun, but I worry, you know, would maybe not be the best fit for the setting. And Matt said the trashy one sounds like fun. So I said, okay, all right, let's do it. Let's go DR. And then Verónica, I don't know if you want to talk about how, because I at that point was like, okay, Eliane will just be an Easter egg. He's got a little sister back at the keep or something.
Yeah. And so, like, I was originally an alternate. Grace was supposed to, like, be the other, like, big player in the game, but...
Clap for Grace, who did tons of work prepping and things. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, at the time, I was in the middle of NaNoWriMo, and I was like, I'm working on so much. Like, I need something where I don't have to, like, think too deeply about this character. And so just chatting, I was like, well, maybe a sibling or something where I can work with another player. And then Feather came. I was like, hey, I have like Eliane built. And so we started talking DMs, and like Feather like told me like Eliane's story, and she sent me her MBI profile and like the Ellendale United stuff, all these other things. I was like, yes, I really like this. And so I had something, like I had some basic things. And then in January, maybe, because I know this happened once the semester started, I was like, okay, I want to get this like all like together, like get a feel like for her voice, like something quick that I can pull on if the change happens. And Feather had written the air story, like the first half of problem solving, and I read it, I loved it. All I said, I was like, okay, great, I'll just pick up where Feather left off. Which is not how the story is nowadays, because I workshop things with Eric and just like started it further back because inciting incidents and pacing and all these things. But originally I did pick up like from the moment Eliane leaves the room and just went from there. And I didn't I had, I think, just the first scene of that written when episode 1 happened. And
yeah, the like DR side of problem solving, which is the scene that which you can read if you want.
You can read.
Where DR kills his father, kills Renholm. I wrote that way back before our session 0 as a way for me to just sort of try to get into this version of DR's head. And because at that point, Verónica and I had started talking about like she was a little bit interested in playing potentially his sister, I was like, okay, I'll write this scene. And I ended up writing the Eliane sections of that one as a like, here's how I think a version of Eliane might act in this setting. And I actually gave Verónica like a little bit of like a deep analysis of like, here's what I think Eliane's thinking when DR does this. Here's why she says that back to him. Here's some ideas for you to sort of get started. And if you like that sort of character concept, like take it and go. Like I really was excited to see you take this sort of nascent idea of the little sister and make her your own. And it turned out really cool. It was kind of a fun little collaboration thing.
And I will say, I was really encouraging people to have connections between their characters. Like Ian and Grace. Well, yeah. Well, also, it was kind of this more intimate story. Like this isn't like a bunch of strangers meet at a bar and go off on an adventure together, right? Like there was an intimacy to the story that I thought it was really important to have all these pre-established connections. So I liked the sister angle. Ian and Grace also, I think, inspired by A Court of Fae and Flowers, maybe by the cousins. But maybe they can talk about this other times, but they came to me and said, we want to come in as relatives. And they had this idea of the chaperone, Cecily and Sylvain. So they had that, but then I liked that even though you were an alternate at first, Verónica, that you had this connection with DR. Because I knew also if we did have to switch you in, it would be a lot easier to integrate you. If we already had some framework because you had a connection.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I really like is like we had talked about the idea that regardless of whether or not Eliane was going to be played in the show, like that she would have received an invitation that Dier got rid of because he didn't want her to come.
Yep.
And like in the original setting, it would have been just like she never got the invitation. She didn't get to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that sort of became her character introduction was, okay, now she is coming to the party. How does she get around the fact that her nasty brother has done this to her?
Yeah, it's kind of a fun, like the branching line, like the two branching lines between the version we originally planned and the version we ended up filming is Eliane like Addison giving Eliane the tip about the invitation so she's able to find it, and Cecily falling ill and not being able to attend the ball. Like, yeah, in the original conception, those things would have been reversed, and Cecily would have been there, and Eliane would have been in the dark.
And Verónica, you had like an hour of prep before we were filming that long day. So yeah,
I'm going to tell this story. So we filmed sessions 1 and 2 over a weekend, right? So on Friday, because
and session 2, just so the viewers are aware, session 2 was episodes 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So
we also planned that was the whole show. We were going to wrap the whole thing in one weekend. That was it. We were done.
That was the plan, but let's be honest. I was on this from day one that it was going to be 4 recordings. And I want it noted for the record that there's no way with this 20-page background document that is going to be 2 sessions. Anyway.
Yeah. So on Friday, I had a 7 a.m. class because it was the first half of the semester. And I have 2 siblings who also have to get to school by 7 a.m. So that meant I woke up at 5 in the morning just to be ready, everything. And so that day I was up from 5 and I went to bed at like midnight because just like the whole family, we had dinner, like all this thing. And so I woke up on Saturday late, like at 10 maybe? Just I was exhausted that day. And I wake up to the message basically like, hey, Grace isn't feeling well, like would you be up like for coming in? Like I had more connections like to the characters and to the plot than Ella did, who like she was the other alternate. Yep. She was like, I don't feel as prepared. And I was like, okay, and the recording, because we knew it was gonna go long, it was an hour. It was meant to be an hour earlier than our usual time. So I had like an hour and a half.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
forgot about that.
So I had I went to look at these transcripts.
Oh, jeez.
Why
true.
I remembered that the day before it was because I was like, wait a second, our usual recording time, things weren't making sense. And so I went back in the chat history. I had like an hour and a half to like get ready, just like shower, have breakfast, organize the room, everything. But my sister also had to be ready because we share a room, and so she had to have all her things out so I could just close and like record. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I had to like, okay, how's the introduction gonna be? And it turned out that Eliane was first, and so I had to rewrite the introduction like 5 times.
Stressful, which
so much
was super fair. It's like, oh, I'm not ready to do a character description here. It's like, that's fine, Verónica. That's totally fine.
Oh my God. You in the deep end.
Yeah, and which is probably why like there isn't that much Eliane in the first 3 episodes because. Like, I was still getting the hang of her. There was more of her in episode 2, but just at the beginning, I was.
And I think you sell yourself short in those first 2 episodes, Verónica. Like, obviously, because of how we cut it and because of your availability, you weren't in episode 3, really, which was just that was how it panned out. Because I think you were actually away from camera for that episode.
Here, I have to like. I say goodbye and all
you
this
were
stuff.
Planning to do this for 2 whole days for most of the day, yeah.
But I think you did a really good job of giving Eliane action in those first 2 episodes. Like, I think there was some really great Eliane moments for sure. So
that Lucia scene was a ton of fun.
That was good.
I was
so fun. In terms of like other prep stuff, I'm curious, Eric, do you remember how Dier and Jenna started? Because I remember how
I really
Dier
should have looked at
started.
this. No, I don't. Do you remember?
Cool.
Yeah.
I do.
Awesome.
It's that I was already obsessed way back, long before we had our session 0, as we were all coming up with character concepts. And I'd already really started building into Dier and was fleshing him out. And I was trying to go around and sort of ask people like, hey, what's your character like? Hey, can we scheme? Right. Can we have a relationship? And you came in and you started telling me that Jenna was like totally uninterested in romance. She's ruthless. She's super ambitious, and she's a perfectionist all the time. And I said, Eric, I don't know how to tell you this. That's Dier's type.
Because that's nobody in you.
It's true. It's true, though.
Which that was, it had a parallel to his previous iteration where he was sort of a coin shot courier for the mob, basically, but was also sort of like the boy toy enforcer for the
he's the boy toy. That's right. Yes.
And I was like, and you were not interested in like a romantic relationship for Jenna at all, but I was like, Dier would be so into her, though.
I think I thought that idea was very interesting very quickly, though.
Yes.
Yeah, because like that was my initial conception, but like, oh, that's a more interesting idea because it gives Jenna like more depth of like that switch between Jenna hating Dier, but actually secretly they're in a relationship. Like Alyx and I had that planned for months.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other thing too, the tricky thing with like a perfectionist character, and I know we've talked a bit about how Jenna's perfectionism, you kind of dialed it back a bit.
I did, yeah.
But perfectionism, what's interesting about perfectionism is that it doesn't work, right? So like, I think a successfully perfect character isn't all that interesting. And so Dier as like a crack in Jenna's armor makes her so much more crunchy. So I was really loving this.
It also led to what I eventually realized was that Jenna has issues with control and controlling herself, right? Which you get in the story, which and also came out in episode 5, where I'm like, oh, after episode 3, I'm like, oh, we could get like unhinged Jenna, and I was very excited about that actually. So we got to see some of that, and we got some of that in the story too.
And I'll also say, since we're talking about kind of Dier and Jenna and stuff, I, from the outset, I forget what I said to you guys, but I think I put out the idea that we weren't necessarily playing the good guys, right? That we're playing Final Empire nobles. And so there was a certain level. Our original server title was Naughty Nobles, I think. Nobles of Naughtiness, yeah.
I was worried about that because I feel like I came up with Dier as like one of the first characters in the group, and I was like, what if nobody else is going to be nasty though? What if I'm the only nasty character? Oh,
no. It's not a problem in the end.
And like as soon as like Jenna came in and then we got Lucius, I was like, okay, this is good. We're just
going to be fine.
And you know, and some people like Grace took more of a like Cecily's like practical, and she's alert to the realities of the Final Empire, and she does what she has to do, but she's
not straight up evil.
Yeah. And Sylvain wanted to be, or Ian wanted to be a little more altruistic with Sylvain, which was cool. So I was glad we got kind of a bit of a, and then like with the introduction of Eliane, of course, her and Dier have a nice duality. Sorry, I'm scrolling back in the chat to try to find some of this stuff, but I just found this quote. I think I must have sent this to you post episode 3. I say, and y'all thought you were nasty. I'm being the Final Empire, baby. The nastiest beep of them all.
Yeah, because
so good.
Alyx can tell you that like Dier and Jenna, we had a very popular private channel about Dier and Jenna plotting. Like it was a lot. And
they went through a lot of iterations in particular. Like, I know when we originally started out, we talked about like, oh, maybe Jenna like really actually isn't interested in him at all, but he's useful and doesn't mind being used because he's very into her. Which I think I like that we moved away from that and they actually did have more of a relationship. But like,
there's a little bit of that, I think, because Jenna's still like, I'm into this guy, but it could never work type thing.
He's such a mess. He's such a reputational risk.
He's such a mess. Why would I do that? But like this is useful, and I like a lot of things about this, but like it can never be public. I never thought that would be public in this. Like, never in my dreams did I think that would be how it went.
Yeah. Listen, I was telling Shannon, I was like 50-50 over under whether or not Jenna and Deer try to kill each other by the end of the weekend. Like, this was a relationship that I think we were both expecting was going to catastrophically fall apart. 100%.
I thought Matt was gonna crush us like grapes, and I wanted him to.
Well, and to be clear, I was not like intending like I'm gonna matchmake Deer and Jenna and fix their relationship.
No, that's true. You didn't.
I was totally on board for them to crash and burn.
I mean, you tried to frame us to get us like ruined.
That's true. If Mavis had died out there and we had walked back in, that would have been a very different scenario.
Oh my God.
Well, and I've mentioned this to you guys, I think. There was also a scenario where Jenna walks in after Mavis is dead, and Deer is one of the first witnesses to that.
Oh,
and then
God.
Deer, who knows what Jenna is capable of.
Oh, yeah.
Does not
very
know
strong feelings about Mavis.
Oh, no.
And does not know, and knows Mavis wanted to talk to him that night.
Oh, no. And Jenna...
that could have been real bad.
Yeah.
So like that was a possibility.
But see, like, I think Alyx, I know I was worried that Jenna and Deer would derail everything because we can just like we can do this all day here, and I was like, how is Jenna not gonna just kill like Eliane? Like, that was the thing that I had thought about, because like she would think about that. And so Matt's like, so there's gonna be like a reason you can't kill people, and I'm like, was that directed to Jenna? Because I feel like it kind of was.
Oh, you mean the ministry edict?
Yeah. Like, I didn't know. I don't think you said the specifics of what it was, but just like there would be like a no violence type thing.
Yeah. I think that was more
Jenna on rails to not murder people.
Yeah, I think that was part. I think it was also because assassination can be sanctioned in the Final Empire. I wanted to make sure that like the murder was a crime, right?
Sure.
Wow, the Final Empire really just be like that, huh?
Yeah.
I need a reason for this killing to actually be illegal, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so the other thing is, because Jenna has lots of secrets. One was the feeder arm thing, and I wanted to keep that one secret. But I think initially we were going to surprise people with Jenna and Deer, but we eventually did. The other players at the table. Yeah, so they would have no idea about that. But
oh my God.
Then how did we come to that decision to reveal it in session 0?
It was during the session 0. I was like asking you, do you want to tell people that we have plans to make them a couple, or should we sit on it? And we were like trying to make that. I think you and I actually peeled off into a whisper channel to discuss it really quick.
I do remember that,
session 0, as we were like, do we tell people? Do we not tell people? And we did decide to tell people. I think it was like, we realized we were going to need 2 session 0s, but we decided to reveal that at the end of the first one because we didn't want to wait a month with people not knowing.
True. Because we want people to see our stuff.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think we were doing a lot of discussions on like character relationships and dynamics. So I forget how much that played into your decision. I do think it was helpful for the players to know, even if the characters didn't.
Before you guys revealed that, I was like, you had already talked about like the public proposal things that Jen and Dear don't like each other, like that public aspect.
We did tell people that there were public proposals happening.
And so my idea was like, okay, maybe Eliane like knows that they don't get along and is trying to use Jen against Dear, like get closer to Jen to like and then you drop that bomb. My jaw drops and I write to you guys immediately. They're like, well, we're gonna have to talk about this because that completely changes like the plans I had initially. I was like, maybe, all that went out of the window.
Oh, that was good.
I also want to point out. So, I know another piece of writing that we've released would be actually the story of like how Jenna and Dear got into their relationship.
Yep. After we always planned to write that.
Yes, we did. Yeah. But I think what's kind of fun about that one is that was not always as plot relevant as it became initially. Like, I think you and I sort of decided unilaterally, like, I think it was actually you decided to tell me about Jenna's pewter. And I was like, oh, you know what? Dear would be really into her if he just like happened to find out about her pewter somehow. Like, wouldn't it be funny if he stumbled upon her murdering some dude and was just smitten instantly because he's that sort of a person? And so we ran like an early version of that scene, I think just over voice chat, where it was just like a random dude getting killed. He wasn't important or whatever. And
you know what that was? I think it was like someone was trying, in my conception, to try and get Jenna to marry Lucius, and neither of them wanted it, and so Jenna offed the people in House Lacal who didn't want who wanted that, something like that.
But Matt changed that one on us and was like, "Hey, I have some more details about this person that Jenna killed that Dear saw."
Yeah, because I didn't care, and
like, yeah, sure.
And so we just got that with secrets. that it's just like, wait, whoa, okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I guess I'll say like I gave secrets in the second session 0, right? Like we kind of did first session 0. We did like concepts, kind of general. We did like safety tools. I talked a lot about kind of general vibes of the campaign and stuff. And then second session 0, we did more of the like, let's finalize our backstory and really piece out all these character relationships. There was a lot of like text stuff happening too. But I knew part of it is I'm just trying to create stakes for the characters and get everyone invested in the murder plot in some way. And I think at that point, I knew I wanted to frame Jenna for sure for the murder.
I mean, that's fair.
And in the session 0, Eric kept being like, yeah, like Jenna's intense, like Jenna like kills people. And I was like, keep digging.
Not only does Jenna kill, she killed Mavis's boyfriend, which is like, okay, that was a fun thing for me to like, oh no, that's why Mavis is acting so weird to Jenna. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She almost killed 2 of Mavis's coin shop boyfriends that night.
True.
Yeah.
True. Nearly killed Dear. Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah. So it was just like the call plot. And I think I had talked to you a bit about that too. It was so separate. And I'm like, this is such a key moment for 2 of our characters.
Yeah.
That tying it directly to the plot would also make the relation, because you guys had also told me how you wanted to have this relationship reveal as part of the game.
We begged you to have that scene at the end of the first night. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, we have limited real estate. If we're going to do this, which I love the idea of, how do we make it like plot relevant that there's this secret relationship and that the origins of this secret relationship are this assassination? So I wanted to make it plot relevant. So I was like, okay, it can't just be a random locale. It's got to be someone who's tied up in all of the complicated stuff that's going on.
Shout out to Ian's reactions every time Jenna brought up chess before. Just like that scene with Verity where I was like, oh yeah, when he dealt with chess, and Ian's just like,
yeah. And I think Chess's name, and Ian will talk more about like Sylvain's reactions on the thing.
I want to know.
But I think Jenna and Sylvain were the only characters who knew who Chess was as a person.
Yes. I think so.
Because they were the ones with sufficient connection to Julian.
Yep. And I just want to give with Jenna Dier a quick thanks to my lovely wife Jess, who let Alyx and I play a very flirty villainous relationship, which is funny because Alyx and I are exes. Yeah. We dated for a bit, which is very funny. So I think it helps that the genders are flipped, for that vibe. Like, I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And also, we're super evil there. Like, we're just
not good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good people. And you guys are like friends. Like,
yeah.
Still good friends. But yeah, it was something like, as we were starting to have these ideas, I think we both were like, okay, we do need to ask Jess if this is okay, if she's all right with, because it's not just something that's like happening in a home game, but it's going to be filmed and shown in front of an audience. Like, make sure she's all right.
And up on the internet forever.
She was had actually, I would say, a lot of fun with it and enjoyed her nastiness.
Yeah,
it sounds like. So thank you, Jess.
I mean, she did watch that
letting
episode.
Us be nasty.
She did see that episode 3 scene, and she thought it was very well done. And that was the unedited one. That was the raw one. So
we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
One of the things, Matt, I know you talked about the sort of like secrets part of the game, because this is actually like a thing that MAG has built in, that characters have secrets. That wasn't just a mystery thing. And I know one of the things we did during the session 0 was actually like the Mistborn adventure game secrets exchange, where you give character secrets and get some back.
And I am forgetting, someone shout at me in the comments if I'm getting this wrong. I think the exchange thing we did is a Natasha creation for the Diceborn thing. I'm not sure if the actual exchange.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure if the exchange is part of the actual MAG. Like, the Meg talks about like secrets and how you can use them mechanically, but I think Natasha came up with that as a way of connecting with web
characters. I love it. I thought it was a MAG thing. Thank you, Natasha. But I know one of the fun things that happened during our secrets exchange, and Ian has graciously allowed me to talk about this while he's not here, was Sylvain ended up with way more information about Dier than I was expecting. Because the first one was my fault, because I intentionally chose to give Ian the secret that Dier and Mavis had a relationship. Wow. And we decided that Dier didn't know this, so he had learned it from Mavis. Because like that was something not even Jenna knew about Dier. I think Eric, you knew as a player because I can't keep my mouth shut. But Jenna definitely had no idea that there was anything.
Like after episode 3, I think, where you told me about that.
I don't think Eric knew about Dier and Mavis until we were playing. On that?
Good job, me. I didn't think I was that good.
No, it was just after episode 3 where we could only talk to each other that I'm like, Alyx, no, you need to tell me, please.
But after I did this and was like, ha ha ha, Sylvain has a nasty secret about Dier, Verónica came in and was like, so Eliane goes and tells Sylvain that Dier killed his father. And I was like, it was
and then I wrote that into problem solving, which I still to revise Sylvain dialogue in that, but
that's fine.
Totally.
She does everything.
Like before the cameras even started rolling, that just massively changed the dynamic between Sylvain and Dier, because Sylvain knew so much about him. and all of his like nastiest, darkest secrets. And Dier had no idea that Sylvain knew any of this about him, but I knew it as a player. And like, I know Ian and I had a lot of fun with the idea of like, oh yeah, the Sylvain Dier ship. I'm like, there's actually a lot there. It was very fun. But that was just like a mechanical secrets exchange thing that like really shook up what the relationship was, just in terms of information exchanged.
And then Alyx and we just shared facts about Chess and that murder, which was like, oh, okay, that's why they were both there. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that even changed, like, because I had a relationship graph of how all the characters are connected. And Dear Sylvain was originally, it was like cold but more on Dear's end, because Sylvain reminded Dear of Julian. But it wasn't it didn't have the animosity that it ended up having, and that came from the secrets, which turned it from like, I think from Sylvain's perspective, it's kind of like, oh, Dear's like not a great person, but Mavis hangs out with him, so maybe he has redeeming qualities, but I don't really want to associate with him.
Like, no, he's awful, actually.
Like, yeah.
He's a murderer.
To him knowing that, I mean, he killed Renholm, he's threatened Eliane badly, which I am very proud of that foreshadowing, not gonna lie. I'd forgotten about it until I rewatched the episode. Well, I mean, all those things,
And a fun thing really happened in character that, Verónica, I'm not sure if you caught on to while it was happening, but when Eliane tells Sylvain that she knows that Dier and Mavis are supposed to have a secret meeting, the reason Sylvain like gets more upset about this idea is because he knew they were former lovers. And so he's thinking Mavis is more trusting of Dier than she should be. And like, that's why he felt the need to go tell her, actually, he's killed his dad and he's really dangerous and you shouldn't go meet him alone.
Well, and I think this is a bit of a digression, but it's connected to this, is the reveal of the Mavis Chess relationship was pretty quick and didn't land with all the players initially. Like, Mavis mentions Chess's name when she's talking to Dier and Jenna at the end about all the people who died. And then she also is talking to Lucius. She tells Lucius, oh, it's no one you know. But it wasn't clear if she was lying or not during that scene. So I think both Alyx and Ian, who were the people who knew about this relationship, assumed that the secret relationship was the relationship with Dier.
Because she says she's talking to Straff about it too. Like, who would Straff know about a venture? Like, a venture.
That's why you were emotionally destroyed after episode 3 and needed to talk with Matt.
So I was deeply emotionally distressed after episode 3 for a variety of reasons.
Because we had talked about how it was a casual affair. It was very like friends with benefits vibes.
Friends with benefits. Heavy. Nothing serious. They were best friends, but they weren't in love.
Yeah, it was a very important relationship, but not really romantic. And then you thought I was hitting you with, no, Mavis secretly like was really in love with and had true feelings for Dier.
Like, stricken. Well, especially with, we didn't know what was going to happen to Mavis. And so I was reeling from like, I had been really prepped in the same way that Dier was really prepped to have a conversation with Mavis for the first time in 2 years, where they get all of the stuff about her ghosting him and like all of the pain that he's been through because he feels abandoned by her. Like, I had spun up for all of that. And then like, not only did we not get that, she's in mortal peril and is potentially going to die before they get to talk to each other. And then also I, as a player, have to deal with the fact that like, I was like, and maybe also he was the love of her life. What? Like that was just a little bit too much. And I think Matt made the correct call to be like, okay, Alyx, I'm going to tell you it was not actually DR. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm still distraught about all of the rest of it, but I can breathe a little bit easier.
Yeah. And that was the call. I was talking to you and I was like, there are hints that it's not DR there, but there's too much going on. You're not picking up on them. And this will get revealed in the next episode, but we're not filming for 3 weeks. So I don't think it's fair for me. Yeah, I did feel like I needed to spoil that aspect of it for you.
Because you were not well, Alyx. You were really not well.
I legitimately did feel like ill going to work the next day.
Yes, I remember.
There was a level of emotional like response that it was like very good emotional response, but it was very heavy and I loved it. I maybe went a little too deep. It's fine.
I can't believe, Matt, you made the trashiest, murderous people be like heroic, but like also you were doing it to like frame us. And like if we had rolled any worse, which we didn't roll well, to be clear, but like we made some key rolls that made it work, that like Mavis was dead, just like straight up dead, right?
Oh, yeah. No, like in my head, I had checkmated Mavis. Like in my head, like Mavis is gonna die, and we'll see like if Vasha gets away or what else happens. But like Mavis is gonna die. But the key rules were Jenna rolled a 5 to get there in time to separate Vasha and Mavis before he could push her onto the lake, which delayed that.
So DR could arrive, basically.
So DR could arrive, and because like Jenna could have survived going in the lake herself with pewter, I wasn't worried about that.
Yeah.
But I really didn't think, and especially like Jenna wasn't wearing metal, like there was no way for
Mavis to pull on it.
Jenna to get Mavis out, right?
She'd run out of pewter before swimming into the lake and coming back up, and Vasha would have attacked her, right? Like that's just how it would have worked.
She doesn't have tin to see down there. It's completely dark.
That's a great point. Yeah, like she had the strength, but not the other stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, whereas Dier had the steel line, so he could latch onto Mavis's metal vial, see where she was, and he had the source of metal that Mavis, and that was an in the moment thing too, because I had like, oh yeah, Mavis will have metal on her, but I was like, but Mavis, like she's very reckless and she's used to getting her way. Like she kind of gets by on her charm. So it was very in character for me to have Mavis go into that interaction not having ingested her metal, because she kind of doesn't believe that something like that could happen to her. And it's not that she's not stupid or naive, but like she has this confidence, right? She's very, very overly confident. But then I was like, oh, I've established she has this metal vial. She can burn iron. So I guess
Dier knew.
Which Dier
knew she was a lurcher, which is why he was trying to bring a metal source to her.
So I was like, I guess she can pull her way out. And then and I was like, and Vasha just did a spray of coins at the ice. So some are in Mavis, but some are
on the ice.
And some would have sank, but some would be on the ice.
Some are on the surface.
And Dier made the physique roll to actually get out of there. Which that was, I think that was the other key roll.
That because like Dier, we would have found a way to save Dier, right? Like we wouldn't have killed him in episode 30 though.
Jenna could have fished him out. Yeah.
But the delay, I think, would have pushed Mavis into her
shock.
And I did so much Googling about hypothermia and blood loss. And then I talked to my sisters in med school. So we went out. At one point, we were at like a nice dinner with my mom out like at a fancy restaurant. And I was like, to my sister, I was like, can I just like pick your brain about a couple things? And so we're sitting in this like fancy restaurant, and I'm like just talking to my sister about hypothermia and blood loss, and like how if she gets over, like if her heart doesn't stop, the main danger is like infection from like the lake. But then we're talking about but unless it's like really bad, it wouldn't really set in until like days later. So like that's the thing, like there is a world where Mavis dies of infection like right after this. But it was kind of like, well, that's not plot relevant, and that wouldn't be like
narratively satisfying. Yeah.
If she survives to the end of the session, she has to survive kind of thing, right?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
at the very beginning of this one, it was like, okay, Mavis is gonna die. I've checkmated Mavis. You weren't counting on that like character development post session too, like after like the headphones off scene where without knowing much of this, like I just knew like the aftermath. Alyx and I, like we ran some scenes of like, okay, how would have Eliane and Dier's relationship been like before the fire, after the fire, that turned into stitching up, which I still have to finish. And we started brainstorming the siblings' backstory, like their individual relationships with their parents, how they developed, blah, blah, blah. And one of those things, which this is on voice, so I wish I had a record of it, but it was just all conversations, was that when Dier came like from his like missions, like as a coin shot many times,
right, of course.
Because Straff and Renholm have these like super high expectations of like, if you do well, we're not going to acknowledge you, but if you don't do well, we're going to berate you with all the bad stuff. And so Dier would like come to Eliane, and like Eliane would like help him like stitch him up and like set any broken bones and arrows and all these things. And so like since she was like 12, she's have like a lot of like medical experience, and she's been reading and researching and all these things. And so she'd have these skills. And that's like, if that hadn't happened, like if the game had gone as originally planned, and particularly if we hadn't had that 3-week break and brainstormed as much as we did, because we did a lot of brainstorming, Mavis would have died. Like,
she would have died.
Yeah.
She would have died. Nobody else would have been there.
I think the mechanics of the spirits rule, like the Mavis survival challenge, is a patron exclusive, but kind of knew what I was thinking for that there would be these hurdles she would need to get through. And I liked the idea of, instead of just me as the DM rolling for this and that decides it, like giving the player some agency. And that's why I came up with this, like the stat spirit is meant to be like their connection to destiny and fortune, kind of, right? So I was kind of like, well, like they all have these web of connection, capital C connection potentially to Mavis. So what if they could like spend their spirit to try and increase her chances of success? And there was a world, like I had a list of people who could potentially have medical knowledge and be around to help out. I think that was like maybe the second roll.
It was the second roll, and we failed it.
Second roll.
The second roll failed.
Yeah,
and
failed.
And I failed it. I'm the one who failed that one.
Wow.
And Alyx, because Alyx failed the second roll, I was like, well, there's no one, so you don't get to add these extra dice because there's no medical help. She didn't even get a 1.
Oh God, jeez.
But then Verónica, and I also let the players do advancements in between sessions because we had this 3-week break between 3 and 4. So
advancements being like the level up system.
Yeah. And so Verónica, because she had developed the character more, come up with this backstory element, spent her advancements on adding a trait, which was the medical knowledge. So it was, Eliane really saved Mavis, and it was, it turned into a really cool big hero moment for Eliane, I think. So it was really cool that the dice told that story.
Alyx and I spent our advancements to get more spirits because spirit was our dump stat. And we're like, oh
we
no.
only had two.
We only had two.
We were like, we need spirits for Mavis.
Like, no, Matt, we did something good that like wasn't selfish. It was selfless.
No.
It was the right thing to do for these awful people.
I told everyone, I was like, any advancements you spend need to have a character justification, but I'm not going to be like too tough on you about it. And I think Dear and Jenna, after having that, like, it was a very like moment of destiny moment on the ice, right?
Yeah.
So to me, a spirit's advancement, it was pretty justified.
Because for Jenna, like, that's the difference, but for her going with her house and not, in a way, right, with Patrine. And you're so evil with Patrine. I've never been so upset for Jenna to get everything that she wanted. Like, she up front, it's like, Tavidian's the Lord Prelon, great. Getting married and kind of feeling good about it, great. But no, her mom killed her old fiance and tried to kill Mavis. Jenna's furious. So I was so upset that you gave Jenna everything that she wanted, and it just wasn't what she wanted. Actually, I was like, oh, so good.
But I felt that was like the only way I could handle Jenna's arc. Like, because
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Sure,
because she's a very like narrow, focused, driven character.
Yes.
So I did want Jenna's arc to involve a moment somewhere that kind of shakes that belief that becoming Lady Techiel and being faithful to the Steel Ministry is the be all and end all. Like, even if she's sticking to that goal and sticking to that belief, I needed to shake it up in some way.
Yeah.
And so to have, like, because Patrine has the same beliefs as Jenna, right? Like,
they're very similar people, actually.
The reason why Patrine is doing what she's doing is to achieve the same goals that Jenna wants to achieve.
And like agrees with Patrine about all those goals. Yeah.
So brutal. I love the role because I didn't know necessarily. I was like, maybe Jenna will agree with Patrine, right? But I really liked the role play decision you made, Eric, that the friendship with Mavis, even though it was strained, was a breaking point for Jenna, that she said, you know, there are things that I don't think should be crossed to achieve these goals. And that's where her and Patrine diverge, right?
Because Patrine would do anything, basically.
Yeah. Well, because like, I won't get too into the meta, but like a big part of Patrine's character is feeling kind of betrayed by her family of birth, because she feels like, I should have ruled Ilariel. Like, my brother is an idiot and I am not. And her kind of 180ing and saying, okay, you forced me to marry out to Techiel.
Oh no.
Techiel's my family now. You know, I'm going to do everything I can to see Techiel succeed, because screw the Ilariels. Like, you guys,
you betrayed me.
You didn't see what I had to offer, so you betrayed me.
Jenna, I realized okay, she is evil. Let's be honest. She's definitely on the evil spectrum, obviously. But like the Slytherin traits, right, in Harry Potter are very much like, it's kind of a bit like Kelsier and his crew. Like, people in my crew are extremely important, and people outside there, not necessarily, right? And Jenna is like, the people I care about are very important. Everyone else I will definitely use as pawns to do whatever. But like, Mavis is part of her group, and like, if someone went after Lucius, like, I think she would react very similarly, right? And be like, no, we're not doing that. That was brutal. I was not expecting the knives. I was not expecting that. Oh, it was brutal.
I mean,
and Patrine was always the villain. Like
that's so wild to me. Yeah.
The Straff involvement came later as I was trying to tie in Dier and Eliane, and I think I mentally, he was involved already, but between sessions 3 and 4, I think I amped up even Straff's involvement a little bit to adjust because of Eliane being in there.
Sure.
Because Cecily had more of a relationship with Patrine, right? So
sure.
Because Grace wasn't in, I had one less character to connect to that part of the mystery.
Sure.
And I had another character with connections to Charisse and Straff. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna, again, they were both involved before, but I kind of tweaked the balance a little bit where I was like, Patrine is still important, but slightly less. Straff was important before, but he's a little more. But yeah, no, Patrine, again, because Tavidian's secret was one of the seeds
Genesis
that
ideas.
Started this whole thing. So Patrine was always the villain who was like covering up for her son.
It's so good. And in our backgrounder that players got, which you can look at the whole thing on Patreon, just Patrine is like, Patrine was supposed to be at the Alariel estate, but then decided not to come. Such an idiot. Like, yeah, of course she was supposed to come, but decided not to. I wonder why.
Yep. As she knew stuff.
Yeah, that was her whole plan.
I mean, if we're going to talk about like things Matt did to us that we weren't expecting.
Yes.
So part of my acute distress situation in episode 3 was that I felt like I had this plan and this narrative arc that we were going to send Dier on, and it was that he was going to make a lot of bad decisions and they were all going to come back and bite him, and then he was going to crash and burn. And it was, don't give me that look, because I know it is what you did, but it's not. Okay, so all right.
Matt is so pleased here. He's so pleased
about it. Was like, I think it was actually Kontiki who talked about like the kind of character you bring to like a one shot is a character that's like you drive it like you stole it. And I was like, that was Dier from the start. He was going to be messy, he was going to be fun, but ultimately he was going to be disposable. And I was like, this guy's life is going to be ruined by the end of this weekend, probably. Like, I don't know, maybe Jenna tries to kill him. Maybe Straff's sick of him and does a thing. Maybe Eliane gets like, Eliane is an NPC, totally could like get the better of him from off screen. Like, who knows what's going to happen to him, but it's going to be bad. And we're all going to laugh as he goes down in flames. Like, that was the Dier vibe. And in fact, in MAG, it's a thing that I didn't put on the on-screen character sheets somewhat deliberately. But all characters have a listed destiny. And the destiny is not necessarily what your character wants to accomplish. It is like the character arc that you as a player have in mind for them, like where you want them to end up as a person, right?
And it's intentionally something that's in collaboration with the narrator. Like that's a trait that you can't decide on your own. And the narrator can actually have a secret destiny for the character that does that.
Oh my God. Different.
So is Dier's original destiny.
The original destiny that I chose for Dier, which I call upon once in the game. In episode 3, when he's attempting to identify is where it gets called on.
Yep.
Is face consequences.
Oh, jeez.
That's Dier's destiny.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a secret destiny for Dier. That was my...
You didn't.
I don't think I gave anyone a secret destiny. I think I played with the destinies the characters brought to the table.
Man.
But what ended up happening to Dier, because he had this hero moment, because he was forced to confront how important Mavis was to him, and because you threw Vasha at him, like,
Vasha of all people,
so mad. I was so like, I'm not going to get into all the Dear Vasha backstory, but we had talked so much, and I was like, this is just the tragedy. This is just the mentor that he lost, who was important to him. He's never going to come back.
I'll talk about that a little bit. So, like, okay. I did want the other seed for the fire. So one was the tragedy of Summerhall. I talked about that. The other is, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. If you are really spoiler adverse, wait for me to give the thumbs up for Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Interesting. I haven't played that, but that's fine. That's fine.
It's backstory stuff. It's not main plot stuff. It's backstory stuff.
Okay.
But there's one of the houses has a group of characters that one of the characters is the sole survivor of a fire, and the other characters all lost someone in the fire. So the character survived the fire, but then everyone else kind of lost someone important to them. And that was the house I played in my playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I really glommed to those characters. So and so also though, from a like game design perspective, I was like, I need everyone to connect on this tragedy because that will give characters motivation to work together. So me trying to like really, I talked with Eric about Jenna, and I was like, okay, we lose the fiance in the fire, and that's kind of how we came up with Julian. We make Julian also a significant person in Sylvain's life. Yeah. Cecily lost her husband, and Verónica, I know we kind of did this in post a little bit in between, but we developed the relationship with Charisse, that Eliane was close with Charisse. Yeah. And so for Dier, we came up with
anything at the start, but
but we came up with this idea of Mavis's brother was a mentor to them both. We were fleshing out the Mavis Dier relationship, and talking about that. So that's kind of how the Vasha thing came about. But then I knew I was gonna. The other thing is Alyx was going on and on about like Dier is such a wild card. I just don't know if he's going to care about this mystery or any of this stuff.
Famous last words.
You gave Matt all the knives he needed.
I did.
So I was very like, okay, Alyx is concerned. I need to I was like not worried. I was like, I think I have Dier, but I was like, but I better make sure that I have him.
Well, you did. Yeah. Because I was thinking about like Dier, the character who doesn't care about politics, who is who doesn't care what's happening at court, who is fixated on like his own little like, Jenna and keeping my secrets. I was like, if there's some random mystery happening, I don't know if he's going to be motivated to try to solve it, right? He's not really that kind of character who cares about that stuff. But yeah, no, Vasha coming back from the dead and attempting to kill his best friend who he hasn't been able to reconcile with in 2 years. That'll get his attention. That did it. So as I'm like sitting there in the ashes of episode 3, trying to figure out what the hell has happened to my trash boy, I was like, Matt, I think I need to change his destiny. Because I think like this is the sort of thing that makes him reconsider who he is as a person and what trajectory he's on and what's important to him and what he wants out of his life.
And what was the new destiny?
And so over episode 3, like as we were doing advancements, I talked to Matt and we changed Dier's destiny to find purpose. So
because you can mechanically, you can change your traits with advancements, and destiny is a trait, right? So it worked well.
Yeah. And everything just kind of spiraled from there of like this character who I really thought was sort of beyond hope, who had gone too far down his messy, dark path to the point where there was only really ruin waiting for him at the end. Not like capital R ruin, but like, I don't know, maybe capital R ruin.
And the final empire is still going to fall. So that is still
they are going to be killed. So,
but yeah, he started thinking about like, what am I doing with my life? Who am I as a person? And what do I care about? And do I care about Mavis? I do care about Mavis. I can't lose her. I can't, seeing Vasha with clear eyes for the first time, realizing his sister's value, who he's been so terrible to, like,
yep.
That was so unexpected. I never in a million years thought we were going to do something like that with Dier, and it was amazing. And
I think that's
horrifying and everything. Yeah, really
interesting when you consider like the previous iterations of Eliane and Dier, because I don't know if you want to share this with anyone later, but spoilers for Elendil United, what happened in Elendil United, Eliane ends up killing Dier. That Dier is much more ruthless, much worse, much nastier. I remember reading it and like messaging, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this Dier is much more unhinged than
this is toned down Dier."
This Dier is toned down Dier compared to you. And in the break between like that mini reboot that happened but didn't happen, Eliane killed Dier in you, and so having that completely like fall apart here and having it like actually like work together, that is really surprising to me. And I also didn't expect to like Jen and Dier as much as I do. I was very surprised. I was like, oh, these are like, the tragic characters, the plot, like the nasty, all these things. And between the game and then reading Illicit Affairs, which is excellent, and oh my god, the character dynamics and the writing,
pretty good.
So I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm genuinely shipping them.
That was the thing after 3.
I knew all the aftermath. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I was so surprised.
I think Alyx and I, we were talking, and then I'm like, oh my god, I think I kind of like actually ship these two. Like they were always in the nasty ship, but then I'm like, can this
kind
work?
Of have, like,
can this work now? Oh no! How's that possible?
They did power couple vibes.
Oh
like,
no!
What?
Like what? How's that possible? Yeah.
Yeah,
and that just totally changed how we were gonna do 4 and 5 for sure.
And then I feel like I got because giving Dier everything he wanted was not on my bingo card.
Who got the best end of this deal?
Especially. Yeah, no, Dier has one of the best endings.
He really does. He really does, actually.
I think Eliane has the most hopeful ending, which I really liked. Especially, and I think also like the Dier Eliane relationship and the like having Eliane as a player character, it was important, like, because that's her arc, right? Is that there's this inciting incident. Dier kills her father. She witnesses it. He threatens her to keep quiet. And the question is, how does she get out from under the weight of this secret and the threat? And the ways out are like, she beats Dier, or they reconcile somehow, really. And
or she tells Straph beats Dier, but that's not gonna happen.
Or Dier is taken out of the equation some other way. But like Eliane, I knew it couldn't end with Eliane still having that uncertainty. Like there needed to be some movement there, and I was happy. Like even though I don't think Eliane should fully let Dier off the hook, and I hope she doesn't. I did like
I figure that out.
Yeah, I did like that it ends with a kind of like siblings bonding moment. I thought that was a really satisfying resolution of Eliane's arc.
It's just like, Dier, just get less trashy. Just like, please, character development, Dier. Just shake him until he gets some character development and decides that he wants to change, and that it's like finally like you put in the work, so it made sense, which is crazy.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
Dier was a character who, like, I always knew that I was going to be able to sympathize with because he's mine and I'm in his head and I know why he acts like this and I know all of the sad and tragic pieces of his past that have brought him down this path. He was not a character that I ever expected anyone else would empathize with. It wasn't something I was going to expect from the audience. It was, he was there to be nasty and you love to hate him. And that was the way I was playing him. And that was all I wanted the audience to get out of him. But I talked too much to Matt about all of the soft and sad and vulnerable pieces of Dier behind the scenes. And Matt was listening and Matt kept track of all of those little weak points in his armor and not only made them a part of the story in a way that hit Dier where he needed to be hit to grow as a person. And I'm still so stunned by that. It's one of the coolest things has ever happened to me in an RP game before. And I think I wrote you a really long, sappy message about how touched I was. And yeah, people need to know how cool it was that you did that with my trash boy. Thanks. And also I hate you.
That does remind me of one of my other influences. There's a lot of influences for something like this.
Yeah.
But one of my other influences that played out was Escape to the Blood Keep.
I haven't watched that yet. Yeah.
Which spoilers for Escape to the Blood Keep for a couple seconds here.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
Brendan was intending to end with PvP.
Oh yes.
And then they end up. The power of friendship ends up saving the day, and so I was kind of it. I do like the nasty nobles, but maybe I can, make them be somewhat heroic.
It's weird because
which is kind of fun.
The Dier redemption arc was the funniest joke before we started production because it was so outlandish. It was the thing that it was never possible for it to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then it did. So,
I thought horrible things were going to happen to Jenna, and it turned out it did, but just in success, basically.
Yeah, well, and I don't think Jenna, Dier, I don't think Jenna's out of the woods, to be honest.
Oh, no.
Because,
not at all.
The breakdown of her relationship with her mom has, some pretty big ramifications and what you were messaging me that last carriage scene, you were messaging me and being Jenna might kill Patrine. And I was
literally during recording, I'm I think Jenna might just murder Patrine. Yeah.
And I was you know what? Cool. That'll affect the ending.
Do what you gotta do.
I did think of a better line later, but I put it in Jenna's last letter. Talking about Patrine. I mean, my headcanon, Matt, is that Jenna for the next few years completely tries to undermine Patrine at all possible. Maybe when her dad dies, she becomes Lady Techiel, immediately kills Patrine. And just that infighting is what makes Techiel go down in ranks for when we see it in Final Empire. And also that Jenna is using her connections with the Canton of Inquisition to throw her brother under the bus and help that too. Those are my headcanons. That just Jenna is just no, and screw those guys.
That last little thing I think is really interesting because another little connection. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
You're talking about how Addison as mayor knows all this. No.
Oh yeah, true. Well,
so she doesn't know everything.
Not everything, but
yeah.
I don't know how much she knows about Ben's mom, right?
Yeah, but so she knows this guy who he isn't Lord Prelan yet, right? So she because I was trying to be careful because we know what Kelsier knows later, and so the conversation Kelsier has with Vin, they don't necessarily know the significance of the Lord Prelan having bastard children, because for them it's kind of all the nobility are corrupt, of course.
Sure.
They don't necessarily know that the Inquisition is working to bring down the Canton of Orthodoxy. Yeah. And I looked at that scene because I did want to be careful. I'm Mayor can't know too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I did look at, and Kelsier's kind of like, oh, that's your father. That's an interesting breach of duty. But he's not like completely like, we need to use this information immediately to
sure.
you know, because that wouldn't make sense. Because it's like, well, maybe he should have known that already if our stuff is like canon, right? I didn't want to break canon.
You know what would be a little bit interesting though? Because Marsh is the one who knew the ministry. Well, what if Mare told Marsh and Marsh carried that little tidbit into his little undercover work?
That's actually pretty good,
Oh,
though.
I really
that's actually kind of true.
There's lots of little tidbits. I thought a lot about Mare being here for these events.
I definitely think she at least like saw like the way Jenna was acting towards everyone and how awful she was at many moments, which is, I mean, again, Tekiel just
Kelsier goes after Tekiel, and I think it might be Jenna's fault in this canon. Yeah, I think that's possible. Also, fun fact, I know in episode 4 when Jenna totally threatens Addison, that was actually a toned down version of lines that I had written, and so I was like, this was the nicer Jenna version. Like, what's the problem, guys? And everyone else is like, oh my god, Jenna's terrifying.
The sharks scene when in Blood in the Water, when Lucius, Jenna, and Dier are ripping into Addison. We call that the sharks scene among us. I'm not sure if that's explicit in the game, but
you do call it that. When they're describing
circling
what Sylvain sees. Of Addison.
Yeah. That was the moment that me as the narrator was sweating the most in the campaign.
These are definitely people who could kill Addison right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, because I was like, I was very careful. Like Straff wasn't at the event. Even like Felix, why I had Felix leave, because I was like, that's Shan's dad, and it felt too close. So I was like, I need to get him out. No, like there was a lot of people that I was like, Kate, nope, this person can't come. Oh, and the timeline too, I was like, it needs to be far enough back that Eliane and company would not be at this sort of thing. So I needed to set it like, okay, they're still like 10 to 13-ish. They're not, but Mare was my exception that I was hiding. And I put a lot of escape routes in there for her, and I probably would have found a way, but I was like,
that scene right there.
If they clock to her and take her into custody and go like, how, like, no, like, do I need to bring in Kelsier to like bust her out?
Oh my god!
Like what?
Non-Mistborn Kelsier, just normal.
Oh my god!
That
would have been a switch from episode 4 to 5. Where like, I guess I gotta get Kelsier to break out.
So I was sweating.
If you put Kelsier in my vicinity, would he have lived?
Especially not Mistborn Kelsier, you know.
We'll see. Yeah, but yeah, no, she managed it. And the only people, so like the people who could have taken her down, Lucius had a couple secrets, which I won't get into. We'll save it Lucius for when Ben's here.
Stream. Yeah.
Eliane had a couple secrets.
Power.
And Lucius had a power to determine if someone was Scott or noble.
Right. Oh my god.
And he used it on the acrobat.
Yeah.
Very important. All the performers, very important.
Yeah. And Eliane obviously had the secret about the tin, so she had some there. And Sylvain had some stuff too, but again, he was pretty loyal to Addison, so yeah, like
it's a good thing Jenna liked Addison's answers, because like I genuinely wasn't sure. Like Addison had some good answers for why she didn't come out on the lake, because Jenna was like, what is happening? You're so suspicious, which Jenna was totally correct about.
Yeah, I think this is part of why I wasn't ever going to probably suspect Addison of being someone like Mare, because I knew how careful you were being around canon characters and how much you didn't want canon characters in the mix where we could get sloppy with them and like potentially mess up the timeline and stuff like that. And so the fact that you had like not only Mare at the party, but like a major NPC in the group, like I think it was your approach to everyone else that hid her more than anything else.
Yeah, that's probably true. And then Marsh in the background on the night of the fire, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, like background stuff though, you guys couldn't muck with.
Yeah, right? True.
I was in complete control of the background stuff.
And with what Addison knows, Addison just heard the Dier Jenna stuff, and which was very funny rewatching it, knowing A, she's a Tin-Eye, and B, oh right, Mare's a Tin-Eye and she's Mare, right? But that was totally diffused by the fact that Dier and Jenna got better and resolved that, so it's not a crunchy relationship that can destroy each other, really? At least in that respect.
I mean, it still could be. Like, I mean, they could fall apart in a year from now.
Well, that's probably true, but I ship them now, Alyx, realistically, which is weird. But yeah, that is very funny. How Addison knew that, and also how did Jenna go this weekend and not have her pewter publicly revealed? That was bonkers. That was weird. I did. Yeah.
We did think like Mavis definitely knows about the pewter now, and Eliane and Sylvain potentially have enough context clues that after the fact, if they remember and think on it, they might be able to figure it out. But yeah, no, I was impressed with Jenna getting away with the pewter secret.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's ultimately, I always thought like the other people would be on the call when Jenna's pewter was revealed. So like that was definitely a different way of doing it. But I still think that reveal, especially the way Alyx, you edited it. Oh my God. It was so good. Anyway.
With like the character sheet change.
Oh yeah.
We need to talk about the production of the headphones off scene in a minute.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
We do. I do want to say, well, we're kind of talking about like mentioning a little bit about like Dier and Jenna fixing their problems.
Starting to.
I know you talked a little bit about like where you see Jenna's sort of like epilogue going. And Matt talked about Dier getting everything he wants, which is not necessarily wrong. I think it's really funny to me that like Dier figured out how to get Jenna to agree to marry him, and also he figured out motivation to be political and care about stuff in his life, and kind of got away with fix things with his sister, sort of got away with murdering his dad, and has maybe internally declared war on Straff Venture, which is not necessarily the smartest thing to do, but also I don't think he's particularly distressed about the idea of going toe to toe with his cousin. I think he's maybe a little bit excited about that idea. Which actually, I'm going to call out something, Matt, that you and I sort of did, which is we did a lot of character building on Straff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That's true.
And I'm not going to get like all the way into it because this is like the deep backstory that we don't have time for. But one of the things we talked about was this idea that like Straff played down his capability while he was heir and like kind of made people think he was non-threatening or like even friendly while he was like not actually in power. And then when he inherited the house, like sort of switched to the cold, ruthless Straff that we all know. The funny idea of people looking at Dier, who has been sort of this useless fool who's so rude and does nothing right in his life. All of a sudden, he's going to start showing up. Hi, Dalish.
Hi. Dalish
like
agrees
on
with
Jenna's arm as this like sharp, confident political creature. Like, I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he was like playing pretend all along, just like Straff did. And it's kind of funny because I don't think he was.
And I think in my head, just because we see Straff's reaction to Eliane and what Eliane does, I think Straff's version of that was probably a little more subtle. Like, I think we talked about the Prince Hal from the Shakespeare play Falstaff reveal. I think Straff, he's not like playing a fool, right? Like he's just kind of letting himself be a little more in the background, and be a little more like, I'm a, charming, I hang out with my friends.
Making people think maybe he's more on their side than he actually is, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think he did the sort of like foolish, messy vibe that like Dier had.
It's really funny.
So, okay, here's the thing. I was just recently rereading like fragments of Final Empire. I was researching for the art article, like clothing, quotes, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up like reading like, most of the end of Final Empire. And I read that scene that Ellen has with Straff, and I was reading and I was like, oh my god. Ellen totally took a page from the air in the way he's acting. I'm like, not caring, not like just shunning his political responsibilities, being irrespective to people, and just like reading and just leaving his like arranged dates like to the side, like all of these things. And I'm like, oh my god, it's the air, except Ellen is genuine about it.
He's genuine and not trashy. Yeah.
Well, like even the move of bringing all his books to Vin's table, like that stunt,
it's pretty reckless. Yeah.
Like Dier wouldn't have done it with books because Dier isn't like a bookworm like Eliane is.
No.
But like that vibe,
flaunting the social convention because you can get away with it because you're a venture.
Is so in line with like Dier's proposal stunts with Jenna, right? Like
it fits with the canon so well. It's really unfair, really.
I didn't do this on like, I feel a little bit upset that like Dier might have had a positive influence on Ellen.
I wouldn't say positive. I
don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for Ellen.
I mean, I think like a little bit of the confidence to like stand up to his father.
That's true.
That whole like, no, I'm going to make my own decision and I don't need to be cowed by my father's threats. So
that's true. He has seen examples of people defying his father. Right.
With
Uncle D. Uncle Dier is just a weird thought.
I know. Technically not uncle. They're like first cousins once removed.
Oh no, right? Yeah. It's weirder.
It's weirder. But they're related.
They're related.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I actually have been thinking like very intensely about like epilogue stuff for Eliane because like Feather sent me like all the EU stuff and I read through it and he just huge like reaction messages like most of my chat with Feather, they're like less than planning stuff initially. No, most of it is reactions to that. And I really liked a character who was like helping Eliane in like that previous iteration. So like with permission and like they talked to the person who played that character and all of that. Like, well, I kind of want to write this story. It's not gonna see the light of day. The audience are not gonna get it.
Rip.
But I was like, okay, so how is she gonna start defying Straff, and how is she gonna help like Dier, like, and the whole saying anything, like how are they gonna get out of that because Lady is still playing Renholm? Like, well, how are they gonna kill Renholm and so that Straff doesn't find out about any of this? Like, what's her relationship with Ellen going to be like? It's been really interesting, but it's also hard because it's so different. Like, well, is she gonna let the air off the hook for Renholm? I don't think so, but how in the world is that gonna work?
Yeah.
It's turned out it's turned into a full-on novella.
Nice.
Even if it's not gonna really be shared with many people.
I wanted to just mention the whole stuff with Eliane and Ellen's mom and like looking out for Ellen. This is so sweet. Like, oh my god. Oh, that's so good.
Well, and like talking about characterization and stuff and filling in this is one of my favorite things to do. I honestly prefer writing, like taking something with canon and then like filling in the spaces to like generating my own work from scratch.
Big
like
huge
because there's fun challenge to it where you're like, this isn't like an open sandbox. Like I have parameters and I have to like juggle the pieces.
Fascinating.
But like Eliane, he's Straff's son, but I'm like, he's not a ton like Straff personality wise. So where is he getting that from? So thinking about who his mother was, and people who say I killed Eliane's mom, Brandon absolutely killed her. Okay. If you read the text, there is no explanation for how Eliane thinks / doesn't think about her other than that she's not alive.
Yeah, has to be, for sure.
Like, she's not alive. Brandon killed her, didn't give her any characterization, any notes about her death, anything about Eliane's relationship with her, no name. So justice for Charisse, okay? I gave her a story. So, but she was already dead. That's my point. But so yeah, thinking about like someone who is a little like kinder, more altruistic. I kind of wove like the bookishness into her character, and then with Straff, looking at some of the actions he takes in the books, kind of setting himself up as this kind of character who's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants, cast anyone aside. Like no relationship is kind of too precious for him. Even if he legitimately cares, it doesn't matter. Like that's the thing. Like there's this question of, did he ever care for this person, or were they ever really friends? And in my mind, with my interpretation of Straff, it doesn't matter whether it was an act or it was genuine. The point is, it's never important enough for him to set aside his ambitions, even if he did have personal feelings.
Rip Vasha and Straff betraying
Vasha. Yeah.
Vasha learned that the hard way.
Yeah. And the other aspect of the character is setting things up so either way is a win. So even if he has like a preferred outcome, it's still gonna like, even if it doesn't work out his like A plot, he has like a B plot where he's like, okay, this is also acceptable and getting me ahead in some way. Which was really fun to work into the plot.
And we built so much of it that like we can't get into because it's too much. But like, ask us about that on stream. What all was Straff up to? Because there's a ton.
Like we built like that whole like Straff like two-way out. Like really, and like the whole Charisse relationship really into like Dear and Eliane backstory, like when we built like the story between their parents and like why Adrienne isn't around and all these things. We had so many conversations, so many things. So on the stream or in Discord, ask us, we'll give you the story, but it's too much to get into right now.
Yeah, it'll take like an hour.
One of my favorite parts of building the siblings.
Or maybe, like, that's the thing, the door's never closed. Maybe someday we'll do some like writings on some of this, or like, you know, like it's
so like thinking back to like us actually playing the game. I know we talked a lot about the headphones off scene, but I feel like we do have to like pull the curtain back on the debacle that happened during recording of
this
that
is my
scene.
Fault. I made a mistake. I made a very important mistake.
Well, let's start like from the beginning.
Okay.
Just to set the stage.
Okay.
So I kind of had this idea. I wanted to frame at least Jenna, right? But also like for the players, for there to be ambiguity for the players about what happened. Like, so I wanted to show obviously Mavis's murder, but again, that kind of clue idea, like really controlling who has access to what information.
Especially right like after the scene where we learn Jenna is really bad. Like, and that's confirmed, right? So
So I knew I wanted to do a headphones off scene. So I talked to the cast. I was like, this is a shorter, like I definitely can't do a headphones off scene for everyone. How do you feel about like some people getting one and others not? And everyone was like very like, we love headphones off scenes. We think it's fun and it's fine if only a couple people get it. I did consider making the Lucius Mavis conversation headphones off as well.
Wow.
But then I was like, well, all that really accomplishes is that Ben's going to have to do a bunch of exposition at some point.
That's a good point for sure. Yeah.
So I didn't think it added enough to justify that. And also like then the audience having to hear stuff twice. Right. Which can be good sometimes to reinforce things. But just with, I figured one headphone. So I decided, but no one knew who was getting the headphones off scene. We just knew at the end of the session. I kind of prepped them, you know what's going to be then. And I did
bring everyone back in.
And I would bring everyone back in. And I know right before Ben was getting really tired because it was late for him. So I think I did mention to him, it's not Lucius.
Sure.
So he knew he could kind of like
chill a bit.
Check out a bit because we were going quite late, especially for him. And so then I say, you know, we're going to do the head. And that's why you can kind of see when I say everyone take their, I forget how it happens in the episode, but you can kind of see people react when I go to Jenna. And that's because everyone was expecting this scene to happen. So we cut to Jenna. And then, Eric, do you want to say what happened?
Okay. So production-wise, we're like, okay, let's deafen people, which is a specific Discord thing, so people can't hear this thing in Discord, right? And so there were some people who were not deafened, and so I'm like, I need to deafen them, so then they can't hear. Slight problem with that.
I think these people had taken their headphones off, so it wasn't like they were listening.
No.
Muted the computer too, like.
Stuff like that. But like within Discord was still transmitting the audio.
So I was like, oh no,
we
we gotta fix that. Anyway, so I muted Ben, who was recording the episodes. That wasn't great.
Yeah. I muted Ben because it was on my server. So you told me to. You're like, Matt,
I told you to. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. I was like, no, we have to do that. Anyway, so we like got through like 2 rolls.
What did you get?
We got through like a roll or 2. And then Ben's like, oh, no. And we had to redo that entire beginning.
I don't know how you managed to redo that.
Yeah. Because with Ben deafened, the recording had no sound.
Yeah, there was no sound of Matt or I or anyone. And so, like, thank God Ben noted this before things got too extreme, because, like, Alyx had to edit in the dice rolls for us redoing those with the same result. And I think one thing that got lost in that I could swore I did was, and I wish I made this more explicit in like episode 1. This is a regret I have of, I should have done things differently. I wanted to foreshadow Jenna's pewter. And so in the scene with Verity in episode 2, Jenna's like, oh, I need to freshen up, which, for the audience, that means Jenna's going to the bathroom and taking more pewter, because she will just always have pewter with her, and like just making sure she consistently has some pewter in case there's an assassination attempt on her. She would always do that. I could have sworn before like we walked down to the docks, I was like, oh, Jenna freshens up, but like maybe that's my imagination. But
you said like she gets her coat and freshens
in the final
up. And then I think in the final version you just say
get a coat. I don't think I said the freshen up, so that's rip. But honestly, we did pretty well redoing, because we did the Jenna's a killer line twice. That was the second take of that, I think.
Oh wow! Okay,
I think that was the second time, right? Matt? Didn't so like you
one
did
of my
it
favorite
again?
Lines. I didn't realize that one was part of the retake.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that was near the end.
Yeah, that was like right at the end. And I
think we got to Jenna
burning pewter,
burning pewter,
and separated.
And I think it was and separated them, and I think that was when we clocked.
Yes, because no one else noted, like Basha hadn't rolled yet, because we got all the raw reaction of the 10 dice. So it was right before then. Yeah, so we had to do that again. So that was fun. So I'm glad it, like on a rewatch, I cannot tell at all. Like it was really well done. But like I do think we rushed through it a little bit more that second time, Matt. We definitely did.
Well, because the other context is we were already running quite late into recording.
We're tired.
And I wasn't feeling tired. I had so much adrenaline. You can see me many times in this, but definitely like I'm like vibrating on camera. but like I knew I was like, I need to get through this scene. So I definitely sped through. I didn't take my time with it as much as I did the first time. And there's a couple things like, like us reacting to the dice rolls because I'm looking for it. I can tell, like we already knew the results of that. But
it was really hard to tell when I rewatched it, which is really surprising. I think the music really helped and stuff.
I had to do some creative cutting to make it look, especially around the dice rolls, I think, because there wasn't an actual roll happening that you guys were reacting to at the same time, it was a little easier to see like something. So I did have to try to hide a little bit of that. But I do think other than that, you would not be able to tell that it was a scene that had to be retaken, at least the first bit.
Anyway, that was a mistake on my part. Matt, you need to do this. Like, oh God, no, that was not.
I'm so glad we caught it. I'm so glad we caught it. Especially before all the Vasha stuff started happening. That stuff was all legitimately the first take.
Yeah,
it was just sort of the walk out to the docks and the early stuff.
Terrifying. Also, through that whole scene, like, I think I mentioned in the episode, I'm so stressed, like, even just Lucius Mavis. Because, like, I know episode 3 was going to be the end of the first day in Matt's 2-shot, right? That was, like, the first day of, what he had originally planned. And so I'm like, oh, no, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Something bad's going to happen. And then I'm going down to the docks. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, God. I'm so stressed.
And you had asked me for an assassination attempt where you get to reveal your pewter.
I did. I specifically did. And it didn't. You subverted expectations in like the best way, because there were just so many things you did where I could not have guessed that's how you accomplished the thing. Like episode 4 with Lucius and Tennille, like I wouldn't have clocked that, but that was insane. But you just did a great job. And that was one of those things where I'm like, oh no, I have to save Mavis. And from a player, obviously Jenna isn't going to let, like, I'm not going to let Jenna just get Mavis killed and not burn pewter just to protect Jenna's secrets, which honestly wouldn't have been that out of character for Jenna. Honestly, that could have been a choice she made, but I'm like, no, it's just so cool for Jenna to burn pewter, and I wanted to reveal it. So like, I have to do this. So that's the choice. So I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, Jenna burns pewter, man.
I will say from like a production standpoint, we mentioned 8 hours that I spent on that one. Part of that was all of the different frames, because for those of you who watched like the video episodes, one of the things we decided to do for the production of this show was actually have times where we cut away to like character sheets, where so you can see the traits on screen, where you only have like the narrator and a player. And for the headphones off scene, we actually discussed like, what if we have a special 3-person frame for you, me, and Matt.
And the dice
mostly roller. Because like, I think because it was a longer scene, and you do have those fun moments where like everybody who's deafened is reacting to the dice roller. But other than that, like, watching people just silently be on video, like the other players' reactions really aren't that interesting. So it was partially like, I want to have the focus on the people who are in this scene and who are having big reactions, and not like the person who has started scrolling Twitter on the side because they can't hear anything.
Well, and some of the reactions were happening in text only.
That is true. That was a big text chat.
I have those who weren't in the scene were like typing to each other, like, what do we think is going on and stuff like that.
And then when people weren't talking, I was desperately trying to do edit homework, because I had it planned to have 2 days of recording all day, and I was like, I need to get this done. I have a quiz tomorrow morning. Like, I need to read.
And it's also like that doesn't translate. Like, just because there's like Ian and Ben, even while you're doing Latin homework, are like, oh my gosh, in text. On video, they're just like, you know.
And Ian tried to guess like. Ian guessed like, oh, Mavis is in the water. Like, he was able to clock.
We'll talk about that when Ian gets on.
Yeah. So like, I spent several hours just sort of planning out which frame arrangements would be up when those transitions were going to happen. I had to do special stuff with like transferring between different versions of the character sheet when we have like Jenna's pewter reveal, and then we have Mavis's iron reveal. Those had to be separate sheets that we had to go with. So like there was a lot of that. But there was also a lot of soundtracking because I was like, it's such an intense moment. I want to find both good music that makes like the scene feel first very suspenseful. I didn't want music that was very intense, even at the start. Like even when Vasha is like being threatening or like going for Mavis, I wanted to keep that more like combat music for further in the scene. And then I also knew that I wanted to do a lot of sound effects for it.
The ice,
just
the coin,
so good.
The splash,
yeah. And that comes from my love, actually, of an audio only show called Worlds Beyond Number.
Okay.
For people who have not gotten into Worlds Beyond Number, it is like
so
gorgeously sound produced with like really rich soundtrack and sound effects that like it sounds like an audio drama. Has a lot of the crew from D20, but it's not a D20 product. Go listen to Worlds Beyond Number. It's gorgeous. But I was like, I kind of want to do some of that for the headphones off scene. So there was a lot of that going on. Speaking of D20 fans, I don't know if anybody caught it because episode 3 hasn't aired, but I'm very curious to see if anybody's going to catch.
I noticed it instantly.
You did. One of the songs that I do use as sort of the like intense combat music is a song called Tyranny, which if you listen closely and if you are a big D20 fan, you might recognize has the musical motif when they make a roll in the Box of Doom on D20. That's one of the combat songs that we used in the headphones off scene.
My butt was so clenched watching the final version, Alyx. Like it was like it was like 12:30 when I started that that upload finished, and I'm like, and I'm just watching it. I'm just, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Yeah.
I needed the audience to feel as intense about that scene as we felt playing it. So
because we're just like despondent every single bad roll that we just totally flubbed. Like I'm just like, oh no, we're screwed. Everything's horrible.
Like you're rolling bad and you're stressed about that, and Ian is celebrating about you rolling badly.
Oh, he is cheering every time Jenna rolls bad.
And I'm like, I'm trying to save Mavis. And then Matt's just so pleased that it's headphones off so no one knows. So pleased.
The wait afterward was killer to not be able to talk to anybody about what happened for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people what the song that Dier's musical motif was for that? The title of that?
Oh, like what it's called?
Yeah.
It's on his character playlist now. I think
it's probably out
playlist.
Now. But
and it's called "Did You Try Your Best," which is such a great.
It's so good.
I believe the composer is Alyx. But I was like, it's such a fun song, and also what a great title.
This moment, I think he did try his best going in the lake. Like he did.
That really was for sure. Trying his best.
Yeah, yeah. But just and also the art commission you did.
The art commission, we just
and then getting that and panning that.
Diego.
Yeah.
Matt, do you want to talk about like the Diego commission at all?
Yeah, sure. Like. We were talking about that scene, and I think in my mind too, again, because I was in a rush to wrap up the session, in hindsight, I looked back and was just, that's such a crunchy visual of them underwater and Mavis and burning iron to get up to Dier and grabbing him and pulling them out. And I regretted not giving that image more weight in my narration. And then Alyx and I started talking about potentially just getting a personal commission of that scene because we liked it so much. And I think Diego was one of the artists we were considering for the character portraits. Yep. We ultimately went with Ellie. We thought Diego's style would work really good for this scene because of how he does stylized iron and steel lines.
Steel and iron line with the rings. I was like, it's so gorgeous and dramatic.
Yeah. And check out his other stuff. Like he's done a couple different versions of that, and it's gorgeous every time. So we approached him about a private commission that Alyx and I were just getting for ourselves to treat ourselves. Because, we deserve art. But then as he was working on it, I started talking to Alyx and I was like, we should try to get this in the episode. Like, it would be,
shouldn't we?
It would be so good.
So because it has like really... multiple panes and like you it's like so a comic thing and the panic. Oh god!
It's a bit on the airspace.
I had this like visual image of like if I was an artist, how I would have like laid it out, and that's usually a good sign that like a commission might be a good idea if you just have a visual in your head that you want to see come to life. And Diego did a lot of really cool stuff with like the perspective that I was not expecting. He was like making Mavis a lot more prominent and being able to see their faces a lot more than I was expecting was really cool. He did that like deer face close up, like that was not part of the art brief. He just added that to do stuff. It turned out so good.
The
and
effects,
I think
the water effects on it,
finding a way to use it in the episode really was like a great call because it is such a cool moment.
Chills.
Yeah. I think it compensates well. Like it does some of the work that extra narration would have done, I think, to give that moment some nice impact.
I kind of like how fast it is, but obviously I'm seeing the very finished product, right? Which like obviously is fantastic. Like what an emotional beat. Like I can't even... I hope it worked for all you because I was stressed out of my mind. Holy crap. And I think Alyx, you were as well.
Well, I was stressed too for the opposite reason because I was like, Mavis knows everything. She survived.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, because
if she survived, because I had put in the mechanic of Mavis's journal, right, to like give you the clues. But like a journal is filtered, like that's just what Mavis is writing down. But then all of a sudden when I thought, and I didn't know until the end of 4 whether you were going to save Mavis. There was also a possibility where you save Mavis, but she's like comatose, so you can't talk to her at all.
No,
you're comatose.
Yeah. So, but you guys rolled the highest possible roll, which was Mavis survives and she wakes up.
What the strategic planning?
But going into 4, I'm like, I need to be okay with that as a possibility. So how do I set this up now so that Mavis doesn't just monologue and give away everything?
Because you still want to see the mystery, Yeah,
well, and I want you guys to like earn stuff, right? I don't want to just give everything to you. So you guys saving Mavis was, well, in 4 I knew it was a possibility. Like I had set up the Spirits Roll challenge and I knew kind of the odds, and I'm like, well, if they do a good job of buffing the right rolls and they're successful, there's going to be a strong chance that Mavis survives in some capacity. But in 3, when you guys were pulling her out of the ice, I was like, this changes a lot.
We have a murder mystery and the murder victim is not murdered anymore.
No, it's an attempted murder mystery.
There were murders that happened in the fire. We still had to solve those.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, because there was kind of 3 mystery plots going on that you like. That's the other thing. I was kind of hedging my bets because there was the mystery of the fire. There was the mystery of who attacked Mavis and why. And then there was the mystery of Addison, which, was also solvable. But I knew you guys weren't going to solve everything, but I wanted to make sure you were capable of solving everything so you could definitely solve something. So we would have like,
And you made boxing for boxing as a way of, Mavis is waking up. I need to make sure she's not just monologuing and telling everyone. And that was so one of those things where, like, I'm expecting a thing going into the recording and just like, I did not expect this. This was not my plan. And it makes sense that Mavis wouldn't say everything, especially to Jenna. It's like,
and that's how I got around the Mavis monologuing, is I really delved into, like, okay, she knows Jenna saved her, so she knows Jenna isn't as into this as I maybe thought, but she still doesn't know, like, if Jenna knows I was working against her mother, would she feel like she saved me, but she doesn't know why I was getting attacked?
Yeah.
If Jenna knew that I was, like, having this secret that could destroy her family, would she still be on my side? And so boxing for boxing is Mavis feeling that out. Also behind the scenes, right before this, she's come across information that makes her question Addison's loyalty. So she's also in that scene.
Wait, yeah, Marsh. She knew about that.
So she didn't know that was information that Mavis got during the party.
That's what she was doing during episode 2.
Yeah, Mavis was still meeting with, like, informants and stuff.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
That's where she went.
Yeah. So off
you
camera.
Not told us that.
No.
Yeah. So this is kind of fun. So between session 3 and 4, I went through and worked out where are Mavis and Addison whenever they're not on camera.
Oh jeez.
After Lucius leaves, Addison goes in to talk to Mavis, and then Dear and Jenna are having that thing, and then Addison goes to the door to meet Jenna. So during the Dear and Jenna conversation, Addison and Mavis are having a very fraught conversation next door, where Addison brings up the information from Sylvain, and Mavis confronts Addison about the information she's just learned.
About Marsh letting in the people.
About Addison letting in Marsh, and Addison potentially not being who she says she is. So Mavis, and that was part of my why Mavis is trying to use what the information she has as leverage over Jenna and Addison, because she's figuring out who can she trust. And so that's
the murder board comes in too.
The murder board. And then, so you see even her questions from other people, like her question for Dear is actually targeted at Jenna. Like that's the thing.
Like trying to see if she can trust him, because where do his loyalties lie? And the fact that he gives the answer he does, that like, oh, I'm fully on Jenna's side. He's not real. Like, if he had known that Mavis would have found him throwing his lot in with Jenna's suspicious, he wouldn't have phrased it that way. But he didn't know that, so that's what he said. It's like, yeah.
And even her question for Sylvain, which is about Julian's parentage, she doesn't actually care about what Sylvain thinks about that.
She wants to get at Jenna.
That was a missile at Jenna.
I apologize for having someone with like main character vibes or like main villain vibes. Like Jenna actually kind of, in some sense, is like, you're an extremely dangerous individual, actually. So, okay, for the audience, what was Mavis planning to talk with Jenna about? Was Addison going to be there on the docks?
No.
So Mavis confronted Addison and then was just like, okay, let's get Jenna and get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, so basically they have a confrontation, but then Mavis says, we don't have time. Like, I have this meeting with this agent from Petrine. And so she's like, Addison, like, we're going to talk about this later, but you need to get...
This is the note that we found. Petrine said, my man will be waiting for you on the dock.
Yeah. So Mavis, and so that's the other thing is Mavis is meeting with informants and she gets that note. That's what she's doing during episode 2. And Lucius, when Lucius comes in, Mavis is like distressed and she actually forgot that she was supposed to meet with Lucius.
Yeah, right.
And it's because she's realized Addison is maybe not like the friend I thought she was. And then also she's like kind of having a mental breakdown that the most important, like I've been scheming about all of this and I'm finally going to confront Jenna about this and I'm running out of time. And I just found out this key ally of mine is maybe not an ally of mine.
God, that's really stressful for Mavis.
About Addison on the murder board. Like it's just, did Addison know? That's it. That's the only thing that there's on the murder board. And I've looked at the murder board a lot because I digitized it twice.
Yeah, you did. Twice.
Yeah.
So there are so much foreshadowing in that document.
So Mavis is under a lot of pressure at this moment. But so what she thinks she's going to do, and she didn't until tonight, she wasn't sure if it was Jenna or Patrine or Straff like pulling the strings. She was kind of thinking Jenna. But this is what kind of shifted her to, it's Patrine. But she still wants to go ahead with this where she can confront Jenna and figure out, was Jenna in on it, or can I flip Jenna by confronting
this agent
her,
of Patrine, basically.
By basically confronting her with proof she can't deny. Like I have this person here that I'm talking to. And then I can confront Jenna and Mavis knows Jenna fairly well, right? So he's thinking it's only if I set up this matrix of events that I might be able to catch Jenna off guard enough.
Right.
That I can see the truth. Because Jenna is so careful and so controlled.
Exactly. You have to get her off balance to get any truth of anything out of her. Exactly. Yeah.
So is it overly elaborate? Yes.
This is fascinating because like you just don't know what like Mavis is specifically doing, but like it doesn't matter for the story necessarily, but like it's fascinating to hear that.
So, but yeah, like Mavis, part of her distress is like finding out Vasha survived and, all this, but that's also kind of the straw that broke the camel's back because she's
not having a good day.
Dealing with a lot at that point.
Hilarious that Mavis thought Jenna was pulling all the strings. But I mean, to be fair, Jenna did murder her boyfriend, so that's fair.
Yeah. Thinking back at like all of our different sort of like working theories.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
I know from the start, I had a secret that I have dear share in episode 4 about this thing about like Vasha had a plan to potentially do something nasty to the Ska, which I was pretty sure that had something to do with the fire, but I thought they got him. I thought they had gotten Vasha. He's dead. He's finished. That was what the fire was about.
To stop Vasha.
But to stop Vasha. And I was like, that's a secret that I know. Sure. I definitely thought, oh God, I was tracking some of the like Chess and Addison are members of the Ska Rebellion and were there to get Vasha that night. And maybe Mavis found out how bad her brother was that night and Chess and Addison like pulled her in like, okay, you're going to help us and we'll get you out, but everybody else here is going to die, sort of a thing. And I really thought my vibe with like what was happening on the docks was this idea of like, okay, Mavis knows Chess survived somehow. She's been putting out feelers into the underground, meeting with informants, saying that she wants to hire an assassin because she knows he's a coin shot. And so as she is trying to like get a coin shot with the burned face, she goes out there, thinks she's meeting with Chess, but she pulled Vasha instead. And he like retaliated, which I felt like was a very plausible theory, but that wasn't at all what was happening.
That would have been a great twist, to be honest.
I do think Chess was dead, so I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, she already knew Chess was dead, but I do think some of that would have been happening earlier on before Chess died, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I did like that idea of the confusion between Chess and Vasha.
Coin shots. Burned faces.
So many coin shots in this, in this story.
But, so many seekers too.
So many seekers, yes.
It's kind of fun. So yeah, what were some of the other theories? I know I prompt you on this, Eric, because there was discussion of was it going to be Julian?
I think I came to you and I was like, I have it all figured out. Like, I think after our first recording, Alyx and I, and we're all talking and we're trying to piece it together. And Alyx, and I'm like, Julian. It's going to be Julian, right? And so, yeah, when you're prompting me on the docs and you're like, well, I mean, it's not Julian's voice. You would have recognized, like, it's definitely not. And also, you're a total punk because you totally threw me off with like, oh, it's a memory of Chess. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Chess is dead. That doesn't make any sense. But I now see what you're going for. But in my high stress situation where I am not very smart, actually, Jenna's much smarter than me. I'm not very smart. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. What does that even mean? I'm so stressed and clueless.
Which works.
Because Jenna doesn't really know Vasha. Like maybe
but it was, your theories, Eric, though, about Julian were so funny to me because you were like, oh, Julian was bad the whole time, blah, 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 blah. And he and Mavis are in league with each other and all this stuff. And then, but at character creation, we talked a lot about Jenna and Julian's relationship. Yes. And we talked about like the possibility of like a love triangle, or like we threw out a couple different options.
My God, I don't even remember this.
And one of the things we talked about is you wanted it was really important to you that Jenna's relationship with Julian was genuine.
Yes.
Was one thing that was pretty key to the character. So it was funny to me when you were like throwing out all this suspicion at Julian, because I'm like, this goes against like kind of what we agreed for their relationship.
Okay. Matt, do you think I remembered that? Like, now that you said it, I remembered, but like no recollection of this. And and these two are laughing because Alyx, do you want to say?
Can we please tell this story?
Yeah, so Eric has a habit of getting like so into the character moment that he doesn't
act well. Like I needed to act and do well at it. And not fumble my words, but I still did. But yeah, you know.
In episode 5, I'm quite proud of this. I think I'm the first person who clocks that Patrine is Vasha's employer at the table. And I don't remember what prompted the little bit of insight, but I was like, oh, it's Patrine. It's Patrine. That's why Mavis wasn't saying it in front of Jenna. And I say this out loud at the table. I was like, I don't think Dier had put together that it was Patrine yet, but I, as the player, had put together that it was Patrine. And Eric reacts to this. You have like a moment to respond. Your mom is behind all of this. And then the scene goes on and we're trying to figure out like, okay, how do we get the characters to the right answer? Like we as the players have the answer. How do we get the characters? And we do these like in-character roles where, Matt, you give us like little insights that our characters are having to help them towards the right answer. And I'm pretty sure after we wrapped the session up, we were talking afterwards, and Eric, you said like, man, I'm so glad Matt gave us those insight rolls because I don't think we ever would have figured out that it was Patrine. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I solved it. I said it.
And what did you say to me, Alyx?
I was like, Eric, you have a concussion. I'm worried about you. I'm concerned that this is just a totally recorded moment that you have. It's just.
Look, I gotta be honest. In episode 5, I was so in Jenna's brain of just like her being like laser focused and totally unhinged that like I'm clearly not processing information. And yeah, so our joke now is. I have a concussion. I don't have a concussion. I'm just an idiot and not paying attention.
But... Eric's selective retention of information has become a bit of an in-joke.
I mean, to be fair, that's a 17 shard thing where someone's like, where I'm like, who told you to do that? And someone's like, you did. I'm like, I don't remember this at all. Actually, that's happened at least 5 times over like the last decade for sure. So I have a concussion.
Yep.
I will throw out and Verónica, I don't know if you want to share any of your like working theory.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
After episode 3, I had a meeting with Matt. Matt gave me more secrets, all this stuff. I had all of the Charisse secrets because like after like what became episode 3, I had meetings with Matt and Matt gave me more secrets. And well, Eliane's connection to the fire was through Charisse, and so I got all the Charisse secrets. And like I even like redacted little parts of problem solving because I couldn't resist writing those into the original version. So like my mind was like, okay, well, how did it like why did Charisse end up at the manor? Like why was she there when she died? And so we built a lot of this into like Dier's and Eliane's backstory, and we'll tell you about it. But basically, my theory was, okay, Charisse found out about how Straff basically goaded Fedrienne, who was Dier's and Eliane's mother, into getting herself killed. And the night of the fire, she had a huge fight with Straff, which Eliane would have overheard parts of, and decided that, like, even if Straff was threatening Elend, like, it was important to go warn Mavis about all this, and which is why she ended up in Lakeside and as a victim of the fire. Because she would have had like inklings about Vasha being involved, because like Vasha and Straff were friends, right?
Right.
Which is again going back to Straff, like win-win situation. And so like, well, how was that tie into like? It wasn't about who was like behind the fire, but that was my theory of like, why in the world is Charisse involved with all of this? Basically.
Yeah. And the Charisse part of the mystery too, that's another part that I, again, was always part of it, but I definitely tweaked when I got the opportunity to, because I knew Eliane was going to be a main character. I was like, hey, like this was kind of a bit more to the side, but we need to bring it more central. We need to like tie Eliane's motivations in a little more central. And I needed to give Eliane more secrets too. So I was like, this is a great, no one else is going to have these secrets. So here, eat of the Charisse sandwich.
I think it's funny to go back and watch, and I'll make a little plug for like people who are not patrons. One of the things that we are doing with this is not just outtakes from the show, but I've actually decided to keep a lot of our like, hey, we are taking a break to go get water, but like the 3 people who have stayed around are chatting about what we think is going on in the mystery.
Oh, fun.
So you can get some of those like behind the scenes moments and also see some of how we were like negotiating how to get our secrets out and what scenes we would actually have, because there was a lot of that going on too. We planned very deliberately like who's going to speak with whom at this party, because we have a thing we need to get in front of the audience and the other players. And, so you can watch a lot of that and like see some of our wrong theories as they're happening in real time. But I know like I think one of the things that really threw us off from Petrine for a while was that note that Lucius finds. I think so many of us immediately were like, it's from Straff. That's a Straff note right there.
Yeah.
Just never went back and questioned it. Partially, I think, because like Lucius and Dier both had a secret that Mavis was exchanging notes with Straff. So we were like, oh, this is just a confirmation of the secret. But knowing that it was from Patrine and knowing that it was referencing like the stunt she pulled earlier in the party about like, you've made your point. Like that's such a key little clue that we just totally sorted into the wrong bin as the group and had to like fix it later.
So did Mavis bring Vin's mom to go to Patrine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was, I have, and that's the thing with, Mavis, because I kind of established Mavis because I wanted her to be like sympathetic and likable by the audience. And Natasha gave me some really good advice on some strategies to do that. But I didn't want her to be like a hero of the story. I didn't want her to be fully like reformed because she's still a product of her society. And even if she is like genuinely becoming more sympathetic towards the ska and kind of questioning the system around her, she's still a product of it. And it's like that kind of archetype of the well-meaning benefactor who is actually like putting their foot in their mouth. She's trying to be kind of helpful, but she's still exploiting and using people. And so the moment with Vin's mom was really like she's being very reckless with this woman's life to get what she wants. And she's kind of grandstanding and having this, oh, we can't let her go out in the cold. I'm saving her. Like I don't care who she is. But her motivations
is her own life too. Like to do all of that right in front of Patrine.
Yeah. This is someone who hasn't faced a lot of consequences in their life, other than like the fire is the big one. And so, it was important to me that also just from the perspective of not kind of rehabbing the nobility too much. Like we wanted to tell a noble story. We wanted to focus on these intrigues, but I didn't want to ignore the fact that
they're bad.
Systemically, the nobility are bad. Even if individual nobles are altruistic, systemically they are evil.
You did a really good balance with that. Like I'm really impressed. So that's why I didn't want Mavis to be like too heroic or too altruistic, and why I thought Mare/Addison's story was really important, because that's kind of the she gets away. She has her Ocean's 11 moment at the end where it's like, this is how I got away with it. Wow.
I do have to throw out that because episode 1 is out and people have like been reacting to it, there is a moment that I had to privately call you out on because somebody was talking about that final scene with Vin's mom and you decided to use the phrase in response, Mavis ain't no punk though. And I was just like, oh, you're just going to go lie to people in the SiSG channel? Because that was such a punk move from Mavis. That whole scene is the most punk move that Mavis pulls at this party.
I forget the exact context, but I think I don't think I was lying if you look at the specific context of what I was responding to.
Okay, Mr. DM. How did Mavis learn about it? Like she just happened to learn about Tavidian's indiscretion, basically?
Yeah, she was looking for leverage. And so she was like researching a bunch of stuff, and so she just came across that information in her investigations.
Fascinating.
Speaking of theories and stuff, how would, like, since you have more of the like big picture of like the original plans, like how would have the mystery been different with Cecily in the mix? Because I think we all saw that Grace, like between chat logs, between things we told her like after the fact, like in those decompression sessions sometimes, and the fact that all of us gave Grace all our secrets, she solved it most of the mystery very quickly. So
not even seeing the episodes.
I think that's fun.
Yeah, like she didn't get that Addison was mayor, but she did have a theory that Addison was not who she said she was and was potentially like a thief or an imposter or something, which none of you guys really you were sus of Addison, but you weren't really digging into the she's not who she says she was. You were just like, she's a sketchy person, which is true. Isn't untrue.
It's true.
I thought she was Ska Rebellion with Chess, trying to take down Vasha.
Yeah.
Pretty close, kind of.
Yeah. But the main thing was Addison Mayer didn't actually know that much about the whole Vasha thing. All she knew is Marsh wanted an in to the manor that night and called in a favor with her. So she wasn't like her and Kelsey. And this is the kind of divide between Marsh and Kelsier as characters, right? Like Kelsier pre-Pitts is just trying to get rich, whereas like Marsh is trying to change the world. And I kind of placed Mare, because there is a love triangle there between the two, where she is a little more altruistic than Kelsier is. And so I could see her, okay, she's on a job, she's trying to steal, she's trying to build relationships so she can be put into a position to steal from the Ilariels. But then she has these connections and Marsh needs a favor because one of the Ilariels is going to do something really bad. So she's like, yeah, sure. Don't tell me too much. Like, I don't want to kind of get too involved, but I can get you in. So it's, yeah.
Can I ask a question just for me? About Chess, actually.
Sure.
Was Chess actually connected to the Ska Rebellion at all?
Yes. So Chess.
Okay.
Think of him like an independent contractor for the Ska Rebellion.
Gotcha.
So he's not someone who's like directly working for the rebellion all the time, but he is someone who the rebellion has used like in the past
to
do different things.
Kind of.
He's an agent. Yeah.
Did he present himself to them as half Ska, even though like presumably he knew he was actually a venture bastard, but he played off like he was a half Ska coin shot?
Yeah.
All of the stuff I've learned about Chess since we finished the game, I'm like, he kind of fascinates me, but
he's a really fun character
that I killed.
Yeah,
murdered. I mean, that was a fun experience writing that, because the Chess gets 2 lines of dialogue and you're like, no, I need to ramp this up. I'm like, yeah, go for it, man. Jenna's gonna break his spine in the next line. You can make him as nasty as you want.
Yeah. We've talked about like how he felt about like Dier and stuff, and I'm like, it's spicy. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Admittedly,
ask us about this. We'll expound in the Discord.
Oh yeah, and like we're gonna pretty soon be collecting questions for a stream, I imagine, and answering questions in chat, and it might go long. I mean, it will go long. It's Secrets in Stained Glass. It will.
In typical after show talk show fashion, I've completely lost the thread of where we are.
You asked a question, Verónica, and I also forgot what it was.
So, like, how would have things changed if Cecily?
Cecily. That's right.
Right. Yeah. So the main thing with Cecily is Cecily had a relationship with like the Ilariel siblings, because she was kind of raised as a ward of Dianette Ilariel, Mavis's grandmother. So a lot of the Ilariel sibling stuff was in Cecily's court to like find out about, and a lot of the older characters like Tennille and Solace and Loris
were for Cecily.
Were more for Cecily. So I was glad like that Jenna really. I find rewatching these episodes, I find Jenna so like, okay, these are the highest ranked people here. I am going to put them in order of rank, and I'm going to talk to them one at a time. And I will talk to all of the highly ranked people. Which was, very fun. And fun that it got, again, some of those older characters who weren't as in play. It gave them some like screen time and kind of a chance to for me to drop some of the tidbits that Cecily would have actively been pursuing. But wasn't.
Matt, it is really funny. She literally like Lord Prelon, Lord Alariel goes down the list of the lords and ladies.
I'm talking to the Lord Prelon. I'm talking to the heads of house who are here.
I did want to talk with Mavis in episode 2 and Sylvain, which I didn't get to do.
Yeah.
She was busy. Like, I'm just haunted by the possibility that, like, what if none of us had talked to Tennille, the best character at this party?
Yes, I know.
How much worse this show would be without Tennille or Name getting screen time.
Tennille had key information about Olivine. So, like,
masterfully before kissing Lucius.
The Lucius Tennille scene, I think I would have made happen no matter what. Because that wasn't like dependent. That wasn't dependent on like the Jenna scene with Tennille. Yeah. Like, I think it worked better us already having a sense of who Tennille is.
For sure.
For sure.
But yeah, I would have brought Tennille in somehow because she had some important information to give.
I gotta admit, because Matt, we totally screwed up Olivine. Because I think neither it was really it was just in our backgrounder document that Olivine had mysteriously died. And like, she was Jenna's fiance's mom. And Jenna just no understanding. And also, but Ben like also didn't clock that in the backgrounder either. And so like names drops Olivine as like, oh, that was just a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay. This is actual play that happens. I also think like a lot of Ben's drops kind of work for Lucius because
he's just making stuff up.
He's careless, but also like because he's just kind of creating chaos sometimes. But also sometimes he's being intentionally messy to like get a rise out of people. So it's not like out of character for him to be like doing that. And honestly, like Jenna, like. She's lost her fiance. I'm not sure how in touch with her fiance's family she's been since all this went down. Like maybe she's been like kind of avoiding. Like I do agree there's some messiness there for sure. They would have
met and she would have noticed that she's not there anymore, I feel like. But there's ways to rationalize it. But that's just Eric the player being an idiot and Jenna being smarter than me. I'm like, oh crap.
Can I talk a little about Olivine, actually?
Yes. Hell yeah. What is going on with Olivine?
You want.
Yes. Well, Olivine, one thing I wanted to talk about in general is this. I was really playing with like different archetypes of a noblewoman in society. And so like you have like Mavis and Jenna have some foiling in this regard.
So much.
But I also have Tennille, I have Olivine, I have Petrine. And I was really Dinette, yes, in different ways that women are interacting with this system. Like you have Mavis, who's very like cavalier with relationships and kind of uses her status and reputation to get away with stuff. You have Olivine, who's kind of more of a cautionary tale of someone whose reputation didn't survive, you know, being more cavalier about relationships. And she ended up marrying down because, you know, she was just so surrounded by scandal.
Because who was Olivine originally?
Urbane.
Oh, Urbane.
Like she's Tennille's
of course.
sister.
Yeah, right.
And then you have Tennille, who's never married and is kind of this spinster. You have Petrine, who is kind of really bought into the system and is like committed to it.
Mastermind type.
Yeah. And so I found it fun to kind of delve into those characters just because if you really look into it, sometimes it's just like a coin flip or like a key decision they've made that separates. Like they have these really varied life circumstances, but they aren't all that different in some ways.
One decision on a dock can change everything.
Yeah.
man, you could almost see like a foiling potentially between like Petrine, who felt betrayed by the fact that she had to marry out of her family, and someone like Fedrienne, who was like a key venture asset, who had a husband marry in so that she could remain a venture and things like that. Because she was so valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And so so that's like, I didn't want to. I try to be careful with Eliane because she's someone who society has kind of unloaded on and has shamed a lot. But I, as the narrator, didn't want to like condone that necessarily.
Yeah.
I did want to include like the character of the fallen woman. I think was like an archetype that people would have believed in this sort of society, and so it was something I wanted to include. And I also really liked the reversal of Jenna and Mavis as foils, where Mavis is the person who maybe doesn't care if the person she's sleeping with is half ska, but really Chess is full noble, and it's Jenna who is, and I did try to leave some ambiguity there, but like Julian's heritage ends up being this big, the crux, like the uncertainty around it.
Jenna knows.
Yeah,
she doesn't know, but she's decided
in her mind.
Yes,
and I was really happy when you guys started picking that up. That like, okay, wait, stuff doesn't quite make sense, because if we know who Chess's mother was, and we know he has a connection to Straff, but if he's half ska, like that wouldn't make sense.
I will say, as soon as I got Alyx's secret, that which Alyx's secret about Chess that she exchanged with me was that Straff wanted a loose end tied up, and that's why DR was there. And I immediately was like, Straff bastard. I was like, instantly, but like I forgot for a while.
True.
Oh my god!
Chess is a Straff bastard, and I had taken like the half ska thing as more on face value, and was like, that doesn't make any sense. He couldn't be Straff's bastard. He's half ska. Like, Eric, you're crazy.
So funny. But it's like, yeah, of course. What loose end would Straff be tying up? Of course, it's a Straff bastard who like went rogue or some crap. Right. That's absolutely a thing Straff would do.
Yep.
Yeah,
totally.
But oh man, Jenna was so destroyed learning Julian. Yeah.
Which
we had to cut a line because it was too nasty.
Okay,
Jenna
I was wondering.
So I won't say it, but it's like, yeah, Jenna's not a good person. She has some moments of like doing some right things, kind of a little bit, but
she's a product of her society, and it's a broken. It's not a good society.
She's evil for sure. She's good as the Lord Ruler defines it, though. So you know.
Hashtag Jenna is good.
Hashtag Jenna is good. Yeah, I changed my username in our server to just as Jenna is good for like those 3 weeks. So Matt, my secrets were not. Well, I mean, there was ministry stuff. Like I knew about ministry stuff, but obviously, like the crunchy stuff with Jenna is like Chess's murder and like the secret relationship with Jenna and DR. That makes sense. But one secret you gave me is just Patrine's a seeker, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So, what was there any?
Yeah, so I couldn't give everything secrets had different strengths, right? Like I wasn't gonna say every single one of these secrets is a huge clue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Gonna like
sure.
So the Petrine is a seeker. Like I didn't know, or like a secret is also something that can be played and used, right? Like during the game. So like that was potentially
like bargaining and stuff.
Yeah, like something you could have used, or something you might want to protect if someone else found out about it. Sure.
So it was one of those, not like a plot thing.
And yeah. So the plot relevance is so in the journal entry from Mavis, she describes one of the coin shots shooting away, and only one of them. So the backstory is that was Chess. Chess is the one who Mavis saw getting away, and Vasha actually went down. He managed to get some away, but was like trapped in some rubble, but still burning steel to like keep some of the pressure off of him. And Patrine arrives on the scene. And she's the one who like senses Vasha, digs him out of the rubble, and keeps his survival a secret.
Oh my God! What?
I have no idea about any of that.
Well, I'm glad I asked about this. Holy crap! Patrine going to see that the job's done and was like, "Oh, I'm late to the thing." Some crap.
Right? No. She was like, "Oh my gosh! Like my family like has been." Oh yeah. Right? Like like she has plausible deniability to be there. So and so that's kind of part of why she's able to like get Vasha to do stuff for her.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Because she's the one who she saved his life.
That's bonkers. Wow. Holy crap.
Like I said, when we were prepping for this, I could talk about some of the stuff I've come up with for hours.
How did it never occur to me? It's like, how did Patrine and Vasha like what? Because like there was a Patrine Straff connection.
Yeah. But my assumption was always like Vasha got away on his own, kept his own survival a secret, went into the underground, and Patrine just found him and hired him. But this is so much more fast.
Way more interesting. Holy crap. And like gives him a reason to be like faithful to her. And Patrine just
have to throw out. I feel like you should tell people really quick about Vasha's son. Some of that. Just like
I completely forgotten about really that Atlas's existence.
So part of prepping for this, I went through all the canon noble characters for each noble house. Figured out kind of rough ages they would have to be, and put them onto the family tree that I was using internally with the player characters, because I didn't want there to be any like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like we have this Lacal in the books and this Lacal in the game. So, and I didn't want to like draw too much attention or canonize too many things in case Brandon ever like writes a Jace Lacal backstory.
On the off chance.
So I didn't want to like but in my head, I have it worked out. Like, this is how Jace is related to Lucius. This is how, different people are related to canon characters. So Ilariel, the only named character is Shan, but we do have a second Mistborn who shows up the night that Vin and Shan have their fight, and that Mistborn gets pushed off of something and gets away. So I was like, it would make sense for that Mistborn to also be a member, like closely related, because Allomancy is genetic, and the main line is going to likely be the most likely to produce Mistborn. So my headcanon is that second Mistborn is Vasha's son, who I've named Anastas. And so Ilariel is actually quite vulnerable at the time of this party. And you see it when Jenna, I think, is confronting Solace. She's saying, get a Mistborn here, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying, like, I'm not going to tell you what we're doing because that's like an Ilariel secret. But part of it is Mavis's dad was Ilariel's main Mistborn. And he died. And so now their Mistborn are Anastas, who I think is like 13 or 14 at this point.
Yikes.
Maybe he was 14 the day of the fire, and now he's 16. I'd have to go back and look, but he's a teenager. And Shan, who the reason Felix wasn't there the night of the fire is Shan had just snapped into Mistborn. In the backgrounder.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I backgrounder. I have a comment like his 10-year-old daughter had come down with an illness. And when 10-year-olds.
Yeah, I knew that had to be Shan.
Yeah. When 10-year-olds come down with illnesses, then the final empire.
They were snapped.
They were snapped.
Or at least beaten. Not necessarily became an Allomancer, but they were beaten.
Yeah, and a big part of the so like Vasha is second born, but in his mind, I'm an Allomancer, my brother is not. I have a son who is Mistborn. My brother has a daughter who hasn't snapped yet, but he doesn't have Allomancy, so what are the chances? So, and we're only separated by minutes in terms of birth, so does it really make sense for him to inherit, or should I inherit? So Shan snapping, along with Vasha dying that night, obviously, Shan snapping also probably did a lot to help secure Felix's claim. But
Valeria goes up in the ranks from here.
Yeah.
Just like,
And I did have a thought of Solace summoning Anastas to come to the manor because they have an attack. They need their Mistborn. Who's their Mistborn?
It's a 14-year-old, like, oh, that would have been pretty cool, though.
No, that his brother's alive.
Yeah, and then he finds out from us, like, the attacker is Anastas' father. Yeah.
Wow.
Who he thought was dead. But the messenger, like, none of Solace's messengers got out. Like, Vasha did clean up. And so he was, like, taking out... he was keeping them isolated.
Yeah, so, Vasha killed a lot of people that night.
Yeah, I do want to say my initial prediction for the murder victim was Lord Prelan Druaga.
Yes,
and
that's true.
Technically, she did get murdered that night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, but that was damage control
because
like
Mavis was alive.
Well, Mavis was possibly alive.
Yeah.
And also that Mavis knew. Petrine was like, we need to get Tavidian in place.
Yeah.
No.
Because if there's it's one thing to deal with potential scandal when you're in position, but it's another thing when you're competing for that position against a couple other candidates. So she's like, we need to lock this in.
You did such a deep web of, like, you really absorbed your life doing all the webs. Like, we could ask about any character except, like, Lord Tekiel. I don't think you did anything for Lord Tekiel. Like, he's there.
Yeah, like, I think
he didn't have a name until, like, a little bit before.
No, yeah. I think the main thing is, like, him and Petrine have a very political marriage. I think he's, like, I'm not sure if this actually is in my timeline, but I think he's quite a bit older than Petrine, potentially.
Well, Petrine's already quite old. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
one Tekiel family thing that Matt did is Jenna killed her uncle when she was 8, which you can read about in the story. And Matt, you made that guy the dad to 2 canon Tekiels, which is
I think just one.
Fun.
I think just Kale Lakal is canon.
I looked at at least the original one, and you also had Salmon there, but maybe you changed it from this older version.
Oh yeah, right. Salmon. So Solomon, interesting. Wiki users will know this.
I forgot.
He's a name that Kelsier gives, and it's never clear if this is a real person or someone Kelsier made up.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have Solomon. I've slotted in as if he is a character who does exist,
he would be here.
He would be here. But if he's someone Kelsier just made up.
Funny.
And on my internal family tree
compliance happening here. Please
I don't think
appreciate how hard that worked. And now you know how haunted he is by the hot cocoa incident.
I think we've headcanoned all the stuff between here and Final Empire. Oh yeah, the hot cocoa. That was funny.
I also worked in the characters from Mistborn House War. Because
oh my god,
I'm crazy.
Wow.
And again, didn't release that. Like, that's just internal for my own peace of mind. So
it's a tangled web.
If one needed to, you could come up with a canon way to synthesize Secrets in Stained Glass, House War, and the books. It can be done.
MBI.
Again,
and Mistborn the Inquisition.
Yeah, I was like, just in that like reading of the Final Empire, there were so many times that like Ellen or Vin or whoever made a random comment, and I was like, oh, here's the answer, and there were Secrets of Stained Glass things, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Because it's so ingrained in my mind that I'm like, yeah, like I know it's an AU, but this is also canon for me.
Jenna could be Lady Tekiel as Kelsier's completely annihilating House Tekiel in that book. That could be true.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to go through quick actually and say my headcanon for?
Oh yeah.
Some of the like during the books.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the time of the books, my headcanon is Solace is still alive but has abdicated and has retired off to the country with Loris.
That makes sense.
He doesn't actually want to run a house.
No, never did.
So Shan's father would be Lord Ilariel.
I feel like, yeah.
Straff is obviously in charge. Pen and Rianne. I think
Hastings ranked number 2. I re-looked, so Hastings got better. So I
think their dad is still in charge, but Teldon is their younger brother in my headcanon.
Yeah, nice.
Because again, none of Eliane's friends are heirs.
Right.
Or one of them is, I think, but not to a great house. Eliane is the only great house heir. I think Lucius's dad is still around, but if Ben, the player characters, I didn't headcanon as much because I'm like Lucius could be Lord the Call.
Oh my God. We should talk with Ben about that.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to Ben. Let's see what other like canon connections can I make?
Yeah,
one of the things is so Straff, just based on the timeline, would have been quite young when he fathered Chess. So one of my headcanons is that Chess snapping is part of the inspiration for Straff's I'm gonna have mistresses and create untraceable
I like it.
Project. And I think I figured out Zane would have snapped around the time of the fire, like around this time. So
oh my god.
Part of the reason why Straff was more okay with burning Chess is he knew that he had a better agent kind of waiting.
Oh my god.
Because the canon is that Zane is the only Mistborn who Straff was able to
Which I was thinking, I've thought a lot about like, does Dier make it to the events of the Final Empire? Because I'm like, he's pretty much declared war on Straff. That's a pretty dangerous thing to do as a person. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, he could potentially be smart enough to stay out away from Straff, but I don't know. Maybe Straff gets him. And I'm like, if that is the case, it's probably Zane who does it, because like
that's probably true.
Zane would probably be the one who killed Dier.
Probably true though. Yeah.
But I hope Dier gets some,
maybe with
some
good
good political blows on his cousin before he goes down.
I do like
about Eliane.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, Eliane.
Because she is actively trying to undermine Straff because she doesn't care about like Dier so much now, because Dier's not gonna mess with Venture anymore in terms of like their branch.
He's not gonna mess with her.
He's not gonna mess with her.
After Straff.
She doesn't care about him messing with Straff, but she's also going after Straff.
And to be clear, all of this is,
why isn't she around when Ellen like is having all this trouble and like needs support? So I've had little questions.
Yeah. Well, I think Eliane like probably gets married at some point, maybe, and has like married out. Like maybe she's had to distance herself because it got too hot. With Straff, right? There's a couple explanations. And who knows? I don't think we're ever gonna do a sequel. But who knows? Maybe we will.
My little headcanon there is like, even she might have not married out because just that little sequel that is never going to see that. But like she married him, like things got hot with Straff and they retired to the country and they just aren't around. But she would have just maybe like heard about all this but had no way of helping.
Matt, you know how insufferable Dier would be as like getting introduced at a ball as Lady and Lord Consort Tekiel.
Lord Tekiel. Yeah.
And I do like the headcanon of the hasting like Mistborn strike team taking out the Tekiel barges as they're fleeing Luthadel. And Penn Hasting being there, kind of like, we got him, walking away. and then Jenna like popping out of the wreckage, like, and then Dier like at her like just streaking away.
There you go. I love that.
I do kind of like. Just because I think it's funny.
If Dier didn't get himself killed prior to that, for sure.
But lots of little fun tidbits. But I am curious though how you guys felt because about the mystery after the fact, like as players, like, was it satisfying? Like, did you feel like, oh, there's no possible way we could have gotten that? Or did you feel it was obvious in some ways? Like, I'm curious, like, how you guys ended up feeling about it, both in the game and the time since.
I think for me, what always like interests me particularly about stuff like this is like the character motivations. So I think like getting to dig into those and finding out not only like who did what, but the why is like, that's what the really satisfying parts of the mystery are for me, is like finding those whys, like, oh, that's so cool. So yeah, I had a really good time with it.
The conclusion, like, I was angry at you for like a solid week thinking about just how angry Jenna was about Patrine being the mastermind. So like, I was very satisfied with that. I absolutely could not figure it out on my own. Like, I missed all of like the Patrine like clues and things because I was like in episode 1 with Vin's mom, like I didn't clock it was Vin's mom. I was just confused. I'm like, I don't know. That's pretty crazy, right? And that's Eric the player. So I would never have been able to solve the mystery because I'm dumb. But I loved the resolution of the mystery and like the murder board. Like when we got the murder board, that was just like, because Ben has a moment where he's like, oh my God. Whoa, I found, whoa, guys, it's very funny.
Yeah. I'm totally going to talk about the murder board on the stream. Like, we can digitize the version and everything. Because I've noticed so many things. So I digitized that twice. The first time, literally the day after recording, and there was a huge storm. And even though we had electricity, the internet was down the whole time. So I was like, well, I'm processing this thing. I need something to do. And so I spent that time like doing several things. Planning and like doing things for the trailer. Just like, like, okay, what are we going to do for the trailer?
Editing. And animations.
Yeah, I'm so happy with how the animations came out.
They turned out great.
And I digitized the murder board for the first time. And I had done that on my sister's iPad, like on her Procreate. And then just for storage reasons, and I sent it off, like I had some revisions to do, and I was like, okay, Alyx, for when you need the revisions this week, whatever. I realized that in storage, just for storage reasons, my sister had deleted the file. And so though I had a version, I needed to be able to move things around to do those edits. And so I digitized it again. I had no problem doing this. And I've noticed there's so many things in the murder board that we missed like during the game. And so I really want to talk about it when we can actually like project the murder board and like say like, okay, like here's this, here's this, here's this.
Well, you know, that's a little harder to do on stream. Yeah, that might be a little
I don't think we could do that on the stream.
That might be
Maybe I'll do a solo video sometime.
Yeah,
walking through the murder board.
I think one of my favorite things about the murder board being a part of the mystery was the fact that like Lucius got it and you had constructed it so well that he immediately was super sus of Dier and Jenna and their involvement. And I was like, perfect, nailed it. Like he could immediately see why Mavis was sus of the two of them. It was great. It was fun.
I love being the villain, honestly. Like it's pretty great.
There's stuff I want to talk about with the like Lucius and the murder board, but I'll maybe wait till Ben's on. But I was pleased with how that turned out.
But like I loved how the mystery, like there were so many tendrils, like it felt very real. Like there was, you can't complain that it's a shallow mystery, that's for sure. But I don't think it was solvable, and like there were clues there, and you emotionally destroyed us. So I appreciate that. That's good. I like it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I like how it's not just like a whodunit. It's about all the character motivations, all the dynamics. All like we really, really got into the politics of this and like how each character would be responding to like the leverage and this house is greater and the way they treat each other, which I think made it a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about as we kind of wrap up maybe who our favorite NPCs are around the group. Which the way I wrote this in our document is favorite NPC and why is it Tennille or Bane? But I think we can just all agree Tennille is first place, and maybe we should just talk about like our second place.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm glad. Tennille, I'll say the inspiration behind her is Jennifer Coolidge's character in White Lotus. Is
I have to watch it.
Haven't watched it.
Yeah, but that was one of the primary influences, and she's different, but I'm really happy with how she turned out.
So fun.
I love Pen and Rianne. They're just like
we're great.
I wish we had infinite budget so we could do art for all of these people, because like Pen and Rianne, like I want to see like how they look, and just God, they're just so lame and fun. Like it's that perfect combination there, really, you know?
Yeah. Well, and this is part of like establishing who the player characters are, especially Lucius, Dier, Jenna, and Mavis, like the group they were before. I needed a character like that who was like an outsider to their group to like establish like how kind of cool and
we're the cool kids,
like prestigious they are. Yeah. And Pen and Rianne are making like they're the cool kids, but you get the vibe that like
they're absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love the little details of how Pen and Rihanna are like respectively have crushes on Dier and Jenna.
Yep.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I also when you talk about art, Eric, Ellie is such a good character artist.
No.
That I just know she would make them look so like.
I know, it would be so good. I just
so good.
But like we couldn't delay production that long, even if we had the money.
No.
Like,
we already had 7 character portrets. Like,
but like get like Solus, you know, get a bunch of people, you know, easy. Get Basha, yeah. That'd be good. Anyway. Or not to mention 20 though.
Fan artists out there, we would love NPC art.
Yes.
Please.
And know whatever NPC you want to make art of.
Loris and his handsome jaw.
Yeah,
his handsome jaw.
God, favorite NPC for like I think I have to give it to Mavis. She's so
Mavis is great.
Fascinatingly constructed, and like the way that you played her, and the way especially that like you and I went so deep on building Dier and Mavis's relationship. And there's a part of me that's like still distraught about the timeline where we did all of that building and I did all of that like prep for their conversation, and you were going to let her die without them even getting to speak a word to each other. This is part of why I was so stressed in episode 4, because I was like, listen, I don't care about the mystery. I'm going to be upset if Dier and Mavis don't get to say anything to each other. Oh my God.
And they don't get to say much to each other.
Don't get to
They say a little bit.
We're boxing. And then she leaves forever.
That was such an emotional. He gave Lucius like an emotional ending, which is like good. So
yeah, we'll talk about that when Ben's on. Yeah.
Quick shout. Lucius is great. In that he's completely awful, but constantly.
I honestly view all your guys' characters as like my kids. So like I'm always like, oh, like you know, I love like, you know, Jenna and Dier, and then I'm like, and Eliane is like the hero, and then Sylvain is like my sweet boy.
Oh yeah.
But then like Lucius is so like
you're just like, I'm going to make you have an emotion right here at the end.
I will say, I think, because Ben's not here, so I think it's best if I say this when he's not here, because it's fun. I think Lucius is like my secret favorite in the way that like parents don't have like a favorite child, but like it's Lucius.
To be fair, like rewatching the first 2 episodes, I totally get it. Lucius is amazing in every scene, and Ben did fantastic. For sure.
Ben just makes him sparkle.
And such a strong personality.
Yeah. And his art is just like
So
Ellie did
fabulous.
things with that art. I'm just like,
It's
oh
just
my
so
gosh,
douchey.
Lucius.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Whereas, no, it's
The art. Oh my god.
anyway. Veronica, did you have a favorite NPC? It's not Tennille or Bane.
Yeah. I think so. Just Mavis and Addison are so good. They're so well constructed, all their motivations. But we've talked about them a lot. I have to say, I kind of have a soft spot for Kenton and Angelique because I think
we never got a conversation on screen, right?
No, but it's just like these tiny little things that I'm like, I really hope to like kind of like give them their own character in like this little thing. And also they're so funny.
Matt, were you prepared to like RP as them? Like ready to go? Oh yeah. Oh god.
Yeah. Like they had like I had multiple paths to get a lot of the information. Like Kenton, it was never pursued, but I gave that to Eliane at the end that Kenton had this letter from Charisse.
And weather patterns of the Northern Dominance, which I loved. Just seeing it
that
there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then rereading Final Empire, like Ellen has it, and I was like, oh, that's because of Eliane, because Kenton got it from Charisse.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it.
Here, I'll just let me just see. I have a note here about some of my alternate pathways.
Who like basically we knew they were having a Romeo and Juliet plotline in the background of our story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So some other stuff like that. I'll just, if you don't mind me just bombing through some alternate pathways. Yeah. This didn't come up because you guys didn't clock to Addison, but there was some secrets about some sketchiness about the Tenebrians that would lead to the connection.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So Faisal might have given that if you talk to him because Faisal's the Terra Steward and he's very aligned with Felix. And he doesn't he views the Tenebrians as like upstarts that are getting involved with his house. And he didn't like Vasha very much. So he also, if Deer hadn't brought up the Vasha plot with the Ska, Faisal was another way I could have gotten that information out to you guys.
Interesting.
There was a lot with Mavis's journal versus Mavis that I basically just said, oh, you get Mavis instead of her journal, and then the journal's gone. Yeah, I don't have anything else right off the top of my head, but I did kind of map out all the different secrets and some alternate ways they could come out if the primary way didn't work. Oh, I also had a headcanon where Loris confessed to some things, if Lucius or someone put the screws to Loris.
Oh, that would be fascinating. Oh my god. Oh man.
So yeah, there were definitely characters that I was prepared to RP as that, I didn't, and that's fine.
At least we got to Neil.
At least we got to Neil.
It's funny you guys Mavis and Addison, because I feel like they're main characters. I don't even clock them as NPCs. They're just part of the cast. I'm not including them in the NPC list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but they are fantastic. To be clear, super fantastic.
If you guys pick someone who wasn't Mavis and Addison, do you have another choice? Like you said, Kenton, Vasha.
I'm too Dier. I gravitate toward the people that Dier gravitates toward. The amount of scenes that we could have with Vasha was alive all this time, and I just and
I am kind of mad at myself because Alyx told me little tidbits about Vasha just when we were running those scenes. And just as Dier, I was oh well, he lost his mentor, whatever. I didn't. I didn't clock it until the whole group did it. I was
Vasha was not a good person, everybody. He was a really, really bad person. I want that on the record, but he was a positive influence for Dier, and maybe that says something about why Dier is the way he is. But
positive.
Can I say my favorite NPC?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
This is hard for me. So Mavis was my self-insert for this, right? Addison, because she mirrors a canon character, I did have a little more distance from her than I did with Mavis, but like Mavis would be like a PC that I'd be interested in playing at some point. Like I had a lot of stuff I was interested in exploring with her that I got to do. So that was great. But leaving her aside,
I still think Dara should take Mavis on the World Hopper circuit.
Yeah,
and
Dara
that's
Irish.
How she should. That's how she should get out of
right.
Yeah,
I'll just for the audience. So Iris Gray, the fortune teller. I reveal at the end her name is Dara Ilariel, which is just a deep cut Easter egg.
Literally, like only 3 people would recognize that.
Yes.
I love the explanation.
And you and I are 2 of them.
Yeah. So, but for audience purposes, the idea is she's an Ilariel who has become a world hopper and is thus like distanced herself from her family, but is still concerned with its survival. So that's why the reveal that she was an Ilariel is significant, because that's why she's like interested in the family.
And she's not around.
And she was your MBI character.
And she was my MBI character.
Your main. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my mains. So,
but other than those, or is Dara your favorite?
Like she again, she has kind of a place in my. I think I really like Patrine. That was really fun to play. And I really liked the parallels I was able to do with Jenna.
Totally blindsided.
Tennille was really fun. Ken and Rhiannon were also really fun. I did like, he's a less likable character in some ways, but I was happy with some of the things I was able to do with Solace. I think he's like a good person in some ways, but just a bad noble lord. Yeah.
It was really funny, like the conversation with Patrine, because like in my research, I was like, Jenna can like get in with the Ilariels and like get a closer alliance, and then as soon as I have the conversation, Patrine is. That obviously that's not going to work. Then Jenna talks to Solus, and then I'm like, I get it. I actually get it. So that checks out.
Yeah.
Patrine agrees with Jenna agrees with Patrine on that with Solus.
Favorite RP moments?
Yeah, let's talk about favorite RP moments.
So should we start with like favorite moments that we did, maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
and maybe let's limit it just to the people here. Like if we want to talk about favorite moments that involve Lucius or Sylvain, let's save it for the stream.
So I say like the race to the bottom. Yes, it was very dramatic and really good. But I think actually maybe my proudest RP moment is actually in episode 4, where Jenna and Dier and Sylvain are sitting around the fire, and Faisal's in the room as well. But I end up doing this sort of like long Dier monologue, and it was actually like really. I hope it didn't come across as like really planned, but I actually planned really hard, because I was like, okay, I have to get across a bunch of information that Dier has about like his backstory, his relationship with Mavis, his relationship with Vasya, and also like a bunch of relevant secrets that now the audience needs to know about what happened out there. And also like Jenna and Sylvain kind of need to know. And so I was super proud of the way that like not only did I manage to get all of the secrets that I wanted to get out in front of the audience out in that scene, but I feel like I managed to do it in a way that conveyed where like Dier's emotional state was at that point, where he was incredibly like raw and low and not dealing with processing it well. Like that was a really difficult thing to RP, but I was really pleased with how it came out, of like conveying tons of information in the midst of crunchy emotions at the same time.
That's good.
And that was one of my struggles with setting this up, is you're all playing like secretive nobles. So how do you get you to share information? And so I was really happy, Eric, like that line from the trailer where Jenna's like, I think it's time that we all start to get to know each other better. Like, it's like, that's the point I was trying to get to, right? Where it's like, you push everyone until they have to start talking.
And of course, Jenna would be the person's like, let's knock some heads together. Let's go, guys. Come on.
What about you guys?
Yeah. So 2 moments. One that's more like proud RP moment. It's the whole like, the whole like spirit sequence with Mavis and like Eliane like place in that. Because like it's a really big hero moment, and it felt like that was a moment when I really got like the hang of her, because in the first 2 sessions, like, I was doing my best and I was like trying to do things, but there were lots of things that weren't working out as well. Like I had envisioned from just like, oh, well, this is Eliane's character concept, and like the informant part and the secret taker part, and that wasn't working out very well, just because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't as prepared to roleplay that moment. And then on the other completely opposite side of the spectrum, the Lucius Eliane scene. Like, it was so Ben ripped into me, and it worked so well. Like since then, like Ben has DM'd me like, so sorry. Like I watched it again, and I am so sorry for doing that. But it worked. It worked so well.
So good.
It does so much for the storytelling. Like, well, I actually like, is this an experience? And she's trying, and she does have like some survival instincts. Like, she's managed to stay out of Renholm's and Straff's way for the most part, unlike the air. But like when she actively has to pursue information, she still isn't the best at it.
Yeah. Oh, those are great scenes. Mm-hmm. I'm tempted to say my favorite RP moment was the Jenna Dier reveal scene, which I will say Alyx and I practiced. We practiced that scene. It didn't happen the same way because it's gone through iterations. We also practiced our initial public Jenna Dier like a few days before we started recording, because it's like, oh God, we got to know how these two are like in public. And so
speaking of scenes where we have to give a lot of information while also being emotional about it, so
yeah, well, that Jenna Dier scene, we literally had an outline, and Matt was like trying to decide when to interrupt, and we cut it down. Actually, we cut it down. It's gonna be longer, but I think my absolute favorite is when Jenna switches and Julian's ska, and she's just not good. And I haven't re-seen episode 5, so I don't know how well it comes across, but I was very proud of the RP, especially when like Sylvain calls Jenna out with Jenna saying that Julian ska, and she's just like, is it untrue? I'd love it to be untrue. Please tell me if it's untrue. Oh yeah, you don't have anything? Okay. And so I thought that's what I was laser focused on, Alyx. I wasn't focused on the mystery. So that's probably my fave. Matt, do you have a fave of one you were in or just a moment you watched?
Yeah. Really like, I think the Mavis Lucius conversations, both of them, and the Addison Sylvain dance. So good. Well, and we'll talk more about, but I really loved Sylvain's scene with that, like the confession scene.
Oh my god. We need to dive deep into that in the stream with Ian, for sure.
So just playing Addison in that, that was really fun. And Ian's such a fun role player. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think for me, those are probably, like, role playing wise, my favorites that I was in. In terms of other scenes, there's so many good ones to choose from. I really liked it's hard because I'm in like everything, but I really liked all of the intros. I thought those all went really well, and I really liked the choices you guys made to establish your characters.
You did great with that.
So many good moments. It's so good.
Yeah. Thinking about like scenes that other people did that we enjoyed. I think you've mentioned some of the ones that I would probably also throw out.
100%.
Of like Mavis and Lucius and like Addison and Sylvain for sure, which we will definitely get Ben and Ian to talk about those scenes on stream. I also really liked the moment where Addison refused to play boxing for boxing. That was a really fun little character bit where she was like, I don't want to be a part of this. Can I be?
Of course she would, because she's married. Yeah, obviously.
Good.
I really like that moment too. I should have mentioned playing Addison in the Sharks scene. I was really proud of that.
Yeah, because that must have been stressful.
I don't know how you did it, man.
Gosh, yeah. That was a fun one. I feel like I had another one, but maybe someone else can speak up and I can think about it.
Those are probably my top scenes.
Starting episode 4 with Tennille barging.
Oh my god,
yes,
was such a choice of all the ways we could have come.
I know, like also like the episode 3, right? Like it was like almost horror-y and then just
terrible,
went on
but brilliant.
Yeah.
You're an evil genius. How dare you?
Genius.
Yeah. Evil genius for sure.
Other final thoughts of just anything we'll talk about?
I mean, I think a lot of it is stuff for the stream.
I did have one thing I wanted to talk about because we sort of skipped past some character creation stuff, and we don't need to go into it, but I just one of my core ideas for Jenna was having someone who was more faithful to the Steel Ministry. And I was like, we need more obligators, Matt. We need more obligators. We never see the nobles really dealing with obligators as much. And well, we didn't get as many obligators, but
we got Verity.
We got Verity. But I just thank you for letting me play a villainous person. But of course, the person who's really in favor of the Steel Ministry is not a good person. Like, obviously, there's no way that's good. She thinks she's good, though.
Well, and it worked out really fun, probably because of Tavidian, but the materials that Crafty let us generously let us use.
That was hilarious.
Like Techiel, like I had to tweak a lot of them just because a lot of them were like longer term abilities. Like you spend a long beat and you get this benefit. And I was like, this takes place over
2 days,
like 48 hours. None of these powers are going to be applicable. So I did tweak them, but I tried to keep the vibe of the original. And Techiel's powers, I kept some of them exactly as is.
I think you did.
Because they were all like, a lot of them were like Steel Ministry related. So I was like, Crafty, that's perfect.
I mean, obviously we're going off the same Tavidian thing there, right? But I love that. So that was some Jenna inspiration, and I just want to high five Alyx for us. I think we did good. I think we all nailed it. Really.
Yeah. We did some really fun character relationships.
Yeah, but Alyx and I, we spent a very long time crafting a thing, and I think we did really well.
You are not the only person I spent that much time crafting things with. So.
But we did a lot of good Jenna work. I know you talked with Matt a lot.
Yeah. I talked with a lot of people a lot.
I know.
I was willing to talk to anybody who would talk to me for as long as they would allow me to talk to them.
Only Alyx wanted to talk with me that long, but Jenna's, she's not very good. So that checks out. Any other thoughts on things?
No, I don't think so.
I hope people have enjoyed the rest of the episodes. I hope I got them all edited on time. We still got to do 4 and 5, so fingers crossed that I make those deadlines.
It's not even August. We got time. Things are good.
You guys will know by the time this airs what happened, but we'll see.
Alyx has been not destroying your life, but absorbing your life working on this. So
I'm a little obsessed with this game, maybe just a bit, but excited for the stream for sure to chat with people directly and do questions. That'll be a fun time.
Yes, because right now people are like, "Oh, it's only 5 episodes. I love these characters," because episode 1 just aired, which is like I think we gave really good arcs for every character, and so it's kind of nice to have a concise story.
The epilogues, I felt tied a nice bow for almost everyone and left everyone in not everyone got a happy ending, but everyone got arc-wise got a satisfying and
There's a conclusion.
Yeah.
Good. What a good Matt. What a good job. And
I know.
Everyone else. What a great job. Great job editing. Great job editing the trailer. I love it. And yeah, it has also absorbed my life, and I'm very behind on some other projects. I keep doing stuff for this.
Same.
Like recording this and editing this so Alyx doesn't have to.
Same.
Edit this if you're busy, but
yeah,
we'll talk about that.
So thanks for joining us, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this kind of peek behind the curtain. And if you're interested in more of this content, let us know, because I'm sure we'd love to blab about these characters more, whether on Discord or in little side videos.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we know you're interested in them, we'll be more likely to make little side videos. So let us know.
Come to the stream.
You can, come to the stream. So yeah, definitely check out the stream. Keep your eyes. It's probably not going to be for a while yet, but Diceborn, the main series, season 2 will be coming out eventually.
Yep.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. And you check us out at 17shard.com for all the news, theories, discussion, opinions, and fun. Check out our Discord. Again, we did a lot of bonus content for our Patreon to do with Secrets in Stained Glass. So if you haven't checked that out already, you only need $1 a month.
$1 for bonus content. Yeah.
So it's pretty affordable. And of course, check out our regular Shardcast and keep the dice rolling, and see you guys all soon.
Bye.
Bye.